WIBC HD2 W298BB, WIBC HD3 W228CX, Indianapolis.
It's Kevin and Query.
I throw, you catch. It's not that hard, okay? All right, get the out of here.
I'm going to talk a lot about drills and fundamentals.
Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
On 93.5
Watch it.
and 107.5.
Boom, baby.
The Fan.
Now, I'd like to know on this Tuesday morning, it looks like a pretty good morning outside, but I'd like to know, something looked different. Saturday, was it Saturday or Sunday? I guess it was Sunday. I got up and was flipping the channels, and I have no idea what channel I landed on, but there was an episode of Leave It To Beaver starting, which I haven't watched since childhood. And so I watched a couple episodes of it, the good wholesome cleanliness of Leave It To Beaver. And coming in this morning, you have a Leave It To Beaver feel about you, Kevin. You're showered. Your hair looks very prim and proper. You've got on a nice sweater. Do you have a court date today? What's going on here?
No, well, unless you know something that I don't.
Maybe, because I'm locked out of my computer.
No court dates.
That was his first assumption.
I know. Was that like a, come here, Boo, snuggle in bed. We're watching Leave It To Beaver this morning.
Yeah. Boo actually yesterday, Boo the rescue cat, Boo is apparently a lap cat, and he made that known yesterday.
Okay. All right.
So I was forced to take a nap yesterday because I couldn't get up because Boo laid on me.
A lot of recliner naps coming for Boo.
That's right.
No, Jake, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my days to head down to Bloomington to do teaching, so I figure that I should probably shower before. Granted, I would say 95% of the class doesn't shower before they show up, but yeah, that's why I decided, you know what? I should probably go for a haircut, probably go for a shave. I felt like the shirt off last week. The whole look, again, the constructive criticism was a lot. So I just felt like it was time to maybe change
the
things.
ET side-by-side was solid.
Did any students drop your class because they saw you shirtless? Or like, this professor is out of his mind?
Actually, I've had more want to take the class.
Oh.
It's kind of indicative of maybe some of their doings, especially here in about a month when Little 5 gets underway down there in Bloomington.
Now, you teach... So it's a Tuesday, Thursday class, obviously, right?
Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is which class specifically?
Yeah, it's a not to get too technical, multi-platform journalism class through their media school, Franklin Hall. Walk into sample gates, walk through sample gates, right there on the left.
Okay, and so dumb question, but I do think people would find this of interest. So you just have one class.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, Galen Clavio, their head of the media school, I pitched this class idea to him. I think I've mentioned it before. Terry Hutchins was, the late, great Terry Hutchins, was a professor of mine when I was at IU. And at the time, Jake, he was the IndyStar beat writer, covering the men's basketball program, covering Tom Crean's early seasons. And I just found it just super cool and very relevant that, someone in the industry was teaching us and found it very beneficial. And both my parents are teachers. I thought, if I could ever do this, I would love to. So grateful that Galen has allowed me to do that. And it's a fun second 8 weeks every spring semester. This is year 4 of it.
So you have what year students?
It's kind of a variety. I mean, technically it's a 300 level class, so it's more upperclassmen. I do feel like I've got some underclassmen this year that I'm kind of thinking wonder how they got in here. But there's 18 kids in the class.
I wonder what the people think that in the class that I'm taking, which the last thing that I have to do is career preparatory paper. So I have an assignment this week to discuss how to put together my resume.
Yeah.
And what jobs would best align with the degree that I'm finishing. Mm-hmm. So I wonder what they think when I put together
Jake
my
Query,
resume.
where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Right.
Retired.
I think I told...
Hopefully employed.
I think I told you guys this. And by the way, good Tuesday morning to you. Kevin Bowen, Jake Query, and Mark Dykman. As Jake said, I think it's supposed to be a pretty nice day. And really, hopefully a string of them throughout the rest of the week. It sounds like we might have Bob Costas visiting campus here soon and potentially talking to not only my class, but a few others in the media school. So that would be pretty cool. I mean, when you think Bob Costas for our industry, Jake, that's like, I don't know, not to get like Mount Rushmore on us, but he's squarely on it.
Somebody said to me yesterday, and it's probably true, Bob Costas from a media, certainly from a sports media standpoint, may be the most versatilely gifted broadcaster of all time. Now, I'll tell you one that I put in that category. You know who I always thought was fantastic? And I know the guy's smug, and I always thought Bryant Gumbel was outstanding because he could do anything.
I like Bryant better than his brother.
You know, it's interesting. Greg Gumbel seems like the more just guy between the two. But Bryant Gumbel was just smooth and like could do anything. But Costas is in the same category. I think Costas' latest role as a baseball play-by-play guy, I feel like he's doing more of a 90s broadcast than a 2023 because the attention spans of people are just different. That's not a knock on him because his knowledge is so vast and his level of enthusiasm for baseball. But that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Anything exciting go on last night?
Boy, I'm trying to think.
Did you watch the Pacers game for about 5 minutes before you realized that you could watch other stuff?
I did. You know, I always enjoy watching Luka Doncic. And
I thought he was supposed to be suspended.
Yeah, and I guess he got it rescinded at some point yesterday. I'd be naive to know exactly how that process unfolds. I seem to recall this with Draymond Green maybe a few years ago. Didn't Draymond Green continue to reach the threshold in Tex, and then they're like, no, he's appealed it. He's going to play tonight.
Yeah, I do recall that.
And honestly, Jake, don't you think Pacers fans were pretty universally thrilled he was playing? Whether you were going to the game or whether you went to see this team continue to lose.
Yeah, that's fair.
And move
Either
up
way, right?
the tank standings. He threw some passes last night that were just absolutely absurd. But it feels like, Jake, the Pacers are... Rosie loves playing hide and go seek, so maybe this is on my mind. It feels like the Pacers are peeking around the corner, and the only thing you can see is the white flag.
Yeah.
They don't want to be out in front and center and they don't want to be bare chested with a white flag painted on themselves, but they're just kind of, hey, here we are. Tyrese Halliburton, what was the exact phrase last night? Resting management. Miles Turner, same thing. You know, it's just, and again, I've got zero issue with it. I want to make that very clear. But they're just doing some things that you don't typically see them do, but you see teams that are 10 games under 500 do at this point of the season. Buddy Hield missed due to illness. I guess, that would appear to be pretty legit reason. It is very rare to see Buddy Hield miss a game. Last night, Jake, the oldest Pacer in the starting lineup.
The oldest, okay. You mean the oldest Pacer found his way into the starting lineup, or who was the oldest Pacer?
Oldest?
Boy, I didn't see who actually started last night. I'm sitting here. Did Duarte start?
Duarte was out, so the group was Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, Aaron Neesmith, Jordan Wara, and Isaiah Jackson.
So would that have been Wara?
At 24 years old, your oldest starter last night was Jordan Wara.
I mean, that's kind of what you like, isn't it?
Again, no complaints on my end. The Pacers competitive for the first quarter, but then they get smoked. 127-104. Benedict Mathurin did have 26. A very nice bounce back per usual from him after two really quiet games over the weekend. I don't know if I've ever seen this before, Jake. Aaron Neesmith last night, his plus-minus was minus 35.
Minus 35?
Minus 35.
But everybody's was probably, right?
Benedict Mathurin was plus 2.
Okay, that's good.
1 of 10 from the floor for Neesmith. He, I think, primarily was kind of with the second unit. They would group him in with the second unit.
I will say, I do like Neesmith, though.
Yeah, no. I don't want this to sound like, I'm driving him to the airport or anything. But, not a good night for him. And if you look at the standings, 6 to go now for the Pacers. I saw yesterday that instead of calling it the magic number, people call it the tragic number if you're going to miss the playoffs, which I kind of like.
That's not bad.
The tragic number is 4 for the Pacers. So that would be a combination of Pacers losses and Bulls wins. Chicago's got 7 to go. Indiana's got 6 to go.
And that eliminates Indiana from playoff contention.
Correct. 3.5 back of Chicago with 6 to go.
Since we last talked yesterday, Kevin, I guess it was shortly after we were together yesterday that Lamar Jackson basically came out and said, I want to be traded, right? I have with each passing hour, my thought on this becomes even stronger. Is that insane of me? I am firmly against the thought of trading for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it probably doesn't make for great radio, but I've always been there. Honestly, when I hear people talk about the trade for Lamar Jackson and wanting to do it, one of the earliest reasons why is I just hear people say, I just want to see them make a splash. I just want to see them do something.
Right.
Well, out of radio talk show, yeah, that'd be great, but that's not the line of thinking you should have in making such a massive move. Jake, I thought Jim Irsay confirmed last night the biggest reason why I thought the Colts would never seriously be in this. And Irsay made it abundantly clear at the league's owners' meetings out in Arizona that the guaranteed contract, and again, we'll see if Lamar Jackson ever backs off of that, but Irsay wants no part of it. He wants no part of it for his franchise. He wants no part of it for the league. And these are all things that we can laugh at and you can scoff at, but Jim Irsay carries the torch for NFL owners, or at least he thinks he does. He wants to be a steward. He wants to be known as the Rooneys and the Hallises and the Maras of the league and the Hunts of the league, and throw all your NFL owner lineage in there. Unless Lamar Jackson significantly backs off that, I can't. It's almost a moot point to discuss it. We will discuss it, but Jake, I think there's a reason why we haven't really gotten too deep into it, because I never thought it was realistic considering how Irsay operates.
Who do you think is the most respected owner in the NFL amongst the other owners?
Yeah, I would assume the Rooney family.
I think that's probably fair. I
mean, Mark Davis doesn't do it for you?
Financial, yeah. I was glad no one said I had a Mark Davis haircut.
That's right.
Today. Financially, obviously Jerry Jones, Stan Kroenke, those guys would be near the top. But in terms of multi-generations,
I think that here's the thing. Jerry Jones and Kroenke both, I think that there are owners that look at them and say to themselves, like with Jerry Jones, I think they think he's too flamboyant, or, that they kind of snicker at the fact that he spins on all of these bells and whistles but doesn't have a Super Bowl to show. Well, I mean,
settle down
not in the
just
last,
a little bit.
Actually, have they won one under him? Now that I think about it, they haven't, right?
When did he take over? I mean, 90 what was their last one?
94 or 95. I'm not sure what year he took over, but at any rate, he had to have been the guy that brought in. Are you looking that up, Mark?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
He bring in Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, he brought in Jimmy Johnson because they're boys from.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah. So, but at any rate, I mean, obviously,
thank you.
But he is one though that I think some of them kind of snicker at. I think they're probably with Kroenke. It's the whole he married into this and he moved a franchise, and maybe that was below board, even though we like that they're in LA. It seems like with every owner there is something that other owners have reason to kind of roll their eyes at him. The Rooneys would be one that would not be in that category unless it was, it's just been the family business forever. But
Jerry's owned the Cowboys since '89.
Okay, yeah, then he won the
certainly. A lot of the stuff we'll talk about owners meeting related here on this Tuesday morning. Shout out to our colleagues that are out there: Zach Kiefer, Joel A. Erickson, Stephen Holder. I know the Colts.com crew, JJ Stankovitz, Kevin Connors out there as well. So a lot of the stuff that we'll chat about will be, kind of relayed from them out there. The full Irsay quote from last night, and I do want to make this clear, it doesn't sound like this was a Lamar Jackson-related question, but it was, kind of the elephant in the room. His quote on the guaranteed contract debate. For me, for the good of the game, I don't believe fully guaranteed contracts would be good for our game at all. At all. Irsay said, I've seen what it's done to other sports leagues, and I just don't think it's a positive. I line up more with the old school owners, the Rooneys, the Maras, the Hallises. Everyone has to change with the times, that sort of thing. Our game is great, and it's great for a number of reasons, but I don't think guaranteed contracts make our game greater. I think it makes it worse. When he says good of the game, Jake, again, I think he thinks he's carrying the torch for the league and continuing to go down this
there are some areas where he may be.
Right. And again, I'm not okay, that's his prerogative. I'm not like here to absolutely rip it. I do think there is an element of your franchise comes before the league. I don't know if Irsay feels that or he doesn't. He did make it clear again that he wants a young quarterback. And when I heard his comments last night, and we can get into these a little bit later, about wanting a young quarterback, I could not agree with him more. I thought he was spot on with the reasons behind that, and I agree wholeheartedly with it. Didn't really put feet to the fire with Chris Ballard in terms of any hot seat debate there. I mean, he did mention that, kind of everyone knows when you're going in the right direction. Can you have a team that's 5-12, but yet you feel like the young quarterback is making progress? That'll obviously be something to keep an eye on. And some Chris Ballard comments from yesterday, why they didn't trade up for the number 1 pick, Stephon Gilmore. Sounds like Ryan Kelly and Kenny Moore are going nowhere.
If I'm Ballard, it's real simple. I go with a young, and I agree with Chris Ballard on this, but in the back of my mind, I go with a young drafted quarterback, because if my owner's down for that, I just bought myself 3 years. 2 at minimum. I go and I get Lamar Jackson right now, and it's like, you better win now. If they're not in the Super Bowl or deep in a playoff run within a year, then there's serious question marks, and I'm looking at it. I go and I get Will Levis, and it's going to take time to grow this plant, so, we'll give it 2-3 years. I just bought myself security of an extra year or 2 of salary, and I'm not getting locked out of my computer, right?
We've mentioned this before, Chris Ballard's prudent nature with free agency. I do think it has a lot of owner sign-off. It's probably something we should talk about a little bit more. Again, it's a bit head-scratching. I think there's a lot of Ryan Grigson scar tissue from how, in particular, the 2013 and 2015 off seasons went in big spending sprees and those not working out. But Jim Irsay definitely seems to be on board with Ballard on that. Did you find it odd, like John Harbaugh's comments at all yesterday? I mean, he was like uber positive that Lamar Jackson will be their quarterback week 1.
Yeah, that was,
like uber. And then Sashi Brown, their team president, came out last night. It's like, yeah, we are committed to get something done. I mean, in terms of leverage plays, Baltimore seems to be showing their cards.
Surprised, yes, but at the same time, and I think I'll give credit to Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have representation. I mean, he's representing himself, right? So he's drawing a line in the sand. Perhaps they think that he's going to ultimately, he's under contract, right? Yeah, it's a little surprising that maybe Baltimore is forcing him to hedge. Does that make sense? Like, if Baltimore is coming out and showing their cards perhaps, but, Kevin, they're basically saying, like, hey, because if Baltimore decides that he's not going anywhere, then he's not going anywhere, right?
Right, then it's going to come down to, how real does he want to make this?
Right.
And really, there's not a whole lot of urgency. You have the draft in a month, so if Baltimore, felt like they were going to lose him, you'd think they would. And let's play out the Colts hypothetical. Let's say the Colts offered them, the fourth overall pick this year, and then next year's first, which again, 2 first-round picks. Irsay mentioned that last night. That kind of adds to it. When you put the draft compensation on top of the money, that I think is what really kind of irks Irsay, even if it wasn't fully guaranteed. But you think Baltimore would obviously want to get it done now to have the 4th overall pick and draft their next quarterback of the future. This was something I was thinking about a little bit yesterday, Jake. Giving up 2 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson, it's not the number one reason why I wouldn't do it. But, Jake, do you ever recall a time that we're 13 months away from a draft and there's this much talk about the next draft?
That's a good point.
And if you remove yourself from the first round, you are not even thinking about or entertaining the idea of Caleb Williams or Drake May or Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't recall this time last year that much chatter. Again, not just quarterback-wise. In a player like Marvin Harrison Jr., the hype seems to be unlike anything we've seen for a skill player in quite some time.
The funny thing to me about that, and especially Caleb Williams, is that everyone seems to think that they are the only one that's thinking that. Like, I've had 50 people, and I'm not saying it's a dumb thought, but I've had like 50 people that have come up to me and said, hey, I got to thinking about this. What if the Colts just go ahead and go with Gardner Minshew this year and wait and then next year draft Caleb Williams? Well, okay.
Yeah, hashtag crumble for Caleb.
Right. And I'm like, okay, great. Do you think that Atlanta and San Francisco maybe and, Tampa Bay?
Well, just look in your own division. I would throw Tennessee up there.
And Tennessee, yeah. Do you think these teams are not, New York, the Jets, do you think they're all not thinking the same thing? I mean, right now there are two guys, Paulie from Brooklyn's calling in on the Fan in New York going, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, they gotta, Mark, you do the better voice.
Hey, just calling in. What do you guys think about the Jets? If they can't get rid of this Zach Wilson guy, if he's chasing around moms, you think we'd go for like a young quarterback next year? Hang up and listen.
I mean, that's taking place everywhere, right?
The chasing around moms part?
Yeah.
I mean, guys are calling in the Atlanta radio saying the same thing. Guarantee it.
One thing we can get into on the Lamar Jackson front, my biggest hesitancy with handing him that sort of contract, again, is how he's ended the last two seasons health-wise, where those injuries have occurred, and if you look a little bit closer at kind of his passing numbers, because at some point in his career, again, he's going to have to revert, I think, more to a passer, there's been just a steady dip in those numbers. And again, all of that would be concerning to me. Did you see, arguably, well, I would say one of the top 2 or 3 most hated Colts from last season found a new home yesterday?
Most hated Colts, you mean as a Colt?
Correct. Thought he's a pretty nice guy, to be honest with you, but his play on the field merited some disgust from fans. To put it politically correct.
There's a long list there. Oh, by the way, I just got into my computer. Mark, did you take care of that?
7th time's the try.
I was locked out. It said I was locked out. I thought for sure that meant that we were out of jobs. What did you find out, Mark, on this?
I don't know. I just sent an email, so maybe they resolved it. I have no idea. Either that or you typed your password correctly.
No, I had copy and paste on the password deal. Hit me, Kevin.
Matt Pryor. Week 1 starting left tackle Matt Pryor, free agent. He is joining the San Francisco 49ers.
At what position?
Well, I don't think he will be their day 1 starting left tackle, considering
Didn't he basically
they have Trent
say,
Williams.
Do you remember Trev Alberts? I'm going on the way back.
Yeah.
Trev Alberts was drafted in the top 10, I believe. I think he was the 9th overall pick.
Made the big splash with Matt Rule, right, as the AD at Nebraska?
That's right. And when Trev Alberts was drafted, matter of fact, I believe Trev Alberts was the one that led to the famous "the Colts should have drafted Trent Dilfer" rant from Mel Kiper Jr. that led to the Bill Tobin. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? Trev Alberts later, and he was an okay player. He wasn't terrible. Decent guy. And then at the end of his career, he did an interview where he said, I knew I was overrated. I couldn't believe they drafted me where they did. Matt Pryor's kind of the same thing. Like, didn't Pryor basically say, like, I was a little uncomfortable with the fact that they were just making me their left tackle?
He laughed when they initially told him.
Yeah.
Which, again,
it's not a good sign, right?
Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know?
Not a good sign.
Wait, he's laughing at the idea of blocking the blind side of a quarterback that can't move in Matt Ryan. I've said this often, but the Joe Wright's quote, I think, is incredibly relevant of offensive linemen are made, left tackles are born. I never understood the idea of the Colts thinking a day 3 draft pick 4 years into his NFL career could all of a sudden become a blindside left tackle. So they paid the price there, and Bernard Ryman, who I thought made some nice strides, will be the guy here in week 1. They're showing San Diego State highlights behind you, Jake.
Yep.
I kind of forgot about this.
That they're in the Final Four? A lot of people are forgetting about that.
Remember a couple years ago when, obviously it was crushing not to have the COVID tournament. And remember Dayton was kind of the hot team that year? Obi Toppin at Dayton. I totally forgot that San Diego State won their first 26 games that year.
Yeah.
They were I think they were 31-2. Done with their conference tournament.
They really have been, like, I mean,
they've been good, but obviously when you're first 26 and 31-2 is a different animal. they were right there with Dayton of like number 1 seed type. They could get on a run, all of those things. So I guess there is kind of a little bit of a feel-good nature to that. I thought Dusty May was really good on with John yesterday. For those that missed it, definitely check that out. They seem to have kind of, and Dusty mentioned this yesterday, of like, we have probably some of the most continuity of any team in college basketball. Those guys have been there for several years, and he thinks it helps them kind of be a little bit more advanced with things. And I think when you watch Florida Atlantic play, it doesn't take very long where you're like, oh, these dudes belong. Like, these dudes know what the hell that they're doing. They clearly are all bought in, locked in, all of that. And I think a big part of that is kind of the old school thought of a mid-major, of a team that grows together, 3 and 4 year players. Florida Atlantic's got a lot of that flavor to their roster.
I did a poll yesterday. I've done 2 of them, Kevin. Which team are you rooting for, and which team do you think will win?
Ooh, well, cool. I'm going to guess they're 2 overwhelming favorites, right? UConn, the heavy favorite on who will win, and FAU on the heavy fandom.
How about I reveal that as part of the morning checkdown?
Into his computer, and now he's just a professional. He's Jake Query. I'm Kevin Bowen. Mark Dykton with us. Nate Atkins going to join us coming up at the top of the hour for the Indianapolis Star. We'll get his thoughts on the owners' meeting, some of those comments. He was at Will Levis's pro day, and I believe CJ Stroud's as well, so we can chat with Nate about what he saw last week. We'll have to ask him if he's going to Anthony Richardson's coming up later this week. I think Richardson and Hendon Hooker are the same days later this week. And then Jeremiah Johnson at 9 o'clock as the Pacers lose last night to Dallas, and they inch closer to being eliminated from the postseason. Looks like a really nice start to this Tuesday, much different than yesterday here in Indianapolis. Thanks for tuning in. Kevin and Query, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Rick Carlisle back in October came on this show and preached patience to you. And the Pacers gave you moments to be excited this year. I don't think the Colts are going to do the same, but I think you can expect the same. I think the Gilmore move is the beginning of it, and I think that rookie quarterback taking over the reins will show you that this is a reboot.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 till 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Shop Grand Appliance for the lowest prices and up to 15% off on high-performance appliance brands like Samsung. Visit grandappliance.com for complete details. Grand Appliance, the appliance experts since 1930.
With the Pacers injury report last night, I'm seeing a lot of, injury management. This guy's out, this guy, this and that. All right, well, if we do have some injury issues, particularly late in the season, joint pain help. QC Kinetics has helped athletes before, and the beauty of it is they are now helping you and I getting moving and living our best life again. QC Kinetics, regenerative medicine that uses healing agents from your own body, put them directly into your aching joints to repair and restore damaged tissue. They've got locations in Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and up in Carmel as well. 317-559-PAIN. Again, we're talking joint pain remedies that don't need steroids, don't need pain meds, don't need surgery. That's the beautiful thing about QC Kinetics. It's a total game changer. Athletes have been using it, and now they can help you or I. So stop putting it off. If you have arthritic pain or pain from an injury, do what so many people have already done, and that is call QC Kinetics and just get a free consultation and go from there. 317-559-PAIN. Locations on the south side in Greenwood, west side Eagle Creek, north side in Carmel. QC Kinetics.
Imagine the possibilities of getting the backyard of your dreams. Expand your living space with an Indy Decorative Concrete patio. Indy Decorative Concrete, the patio experts. Big enough to service, small enough to care.
Hey there, it's Jake Query for the Good Feet Store of Indiana with 2 locations, Greenwood and at 82nd and Dean up in Clearwater. I love the Good Feet Store and their arch support inserts. I know a lot of people say to me, they're like, "Now, Jake, so what exactly is the Good Feet Store?" Well, let me tell you. I had plantar fasciitis. It was awful. First step I'd take in the morning because you'd forget, you wake up, you're groggy, you take the first step. Grueling pain. Thought I had a broken foot on several occasions. Went to the Good Feet Store, simply stood right on a pad, and Chris, who's a great dude, looked at it and said, "Well, yeah, Jake, you see what you're doing? You're favoring way too far to one side of your foot." So they got me the arch supports. He went back and he came and said, "Here you go. These supports here are not a one-size-fits-all. These are actually for kind of the contour of your foot to balance you out." And I've been pain-free ever since. That's what I love about the Good Feet store. The security of knowing each and every day, kind of like that security blanket that the inserts inside my shoes, which are very easy to interchange from one pair of shoes to the next, are going to keep me pain-free. I would love for you folks to either be preventative or to just go ahead and, if you have that foot pain, alleviate it as I did with the Good Feet store of Indiana. Check them out online at goodfeetindy.com.
Hey, JMV, here's something that we absolutely love. It's our outdoor living spaces, and as the temperatures get warmer and we want to be outside even more, you look at your back deck and you wonder what you need to do to make it its most comfortable and to look its best. And I have the answer. It's Premier Deck Coating. I use Premier Deck Coating because I love my back deck. It repels moisture, scratch resistant, and it's offered in virtually any color imaginable. You will absolutely love the way that it looks, and with a 10-year guarantee, you don't have to worry about staining or painting every year or so. Think about the money you're going to save to make your outdoor living space look and feel fantastic. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071. 317-696-4071. Online, premierdeckcoating.com today.
O'Reilly. Don't risk getting stranded with a bad battery. Let the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts test your battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card after rebate with purchase of select Superstart batteries. For power, performance, and reliability, choose Superstart batteries at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We can get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we can take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Union Pacific Railroad wants you to join its team. It's an opportunity that comes with great pay and benefits. There are a variety of open roles across its 23-state network, including train crew positions, with hiring and relocation incentives of up to $50,000 in some locations. You can even get a free college education while working. Union Pacific Railroad connects hundreds of communities, hauling goods Americans rely on every day. Get your career on the right track with Union Pacific and apply today at up.jobs/sports. That's up.jobs/sports.
Dream homes come in all shapes and sizes. And at TCU, we believe borrowing options should too. There's no one-size-fits-all mortgage. Let our knowledgeable team pair you with your perfect loan solution while you pick the perfect pairing of paint colors for your new place. Plus, save up to $1,000 on closing costs, which means more money for the fun stuff. Together, let's make it yours. Welcome home with TCU. NMLS number 686706, federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity, all loans subject to credit approval and membership requirements. Offer details at tcunet.com/welcome home.
The Morning Checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, Kev, so here we go. Two-part question on the very scientific Jake Query Twitter poll. Who are you rooting for, and who do you think will win in the NCAA Final Four? We will begin with the highly anticipated, who do you think will win it all? Over 1,000 people voted on this scientific survey. Would you like to guess which one the least in terms of who people said they think will win?
Boy, that's pretty close with that first game Saturday night, FAU and San Diego State. I'll go San Diego State. Maybe more rooting interest in FAU.
San Diego State, 3% saying they think San Diego State will win. UConn, the overwhelming favorite, 76%. Miami of Florida got 15%. Florida Atlantic, 6%. Now, matter of fact, a higher number of votes. For who are you rooting? Would you like to guess? Is that your guess?
That's my guess.
67% rooting for Florida Atlantic. Only 9% rooting for UConn. 11% for San Diego State and 13% for Miami. I kind of like San Diego State.
I thought Jim Larinaga might garner a few more votes.
Yeah, he's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, you do have the local connection with Nigel Pack. Nigel Pack joining us tomorrow, right, Mark?
Yep, 9 o'clock.
That's huge.
Tucker Barnhart tomorrow as well.
9:30.
Getting ready to start Major League Baseball season.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you, Mark. Now, what is that?
It's the Aztecs.
That to me sounds like that Bobcat.
Well, it might, but it's not. It's a death whistle.
Well, didn't they make their way through mascots? They've dethroned them, so maybe they've gained their mascot noises throughout the tournament.
They killed them, and then they took over their spirit.
Okay.
Last night, the Pacers got killed over Gainbridge Fieldhouse, 127-104.
And their spirit was taken from them when they were down 30.
Luka Doncic had 25. Benedict Mathurin did bounce back. He had 26 for the Pacers. Close game for a quarter, and then Dallas kind of imposed their will. A lot of resting for Indiana last night. Their starting lineup, their oldest guy was 24 years old. That was Jordan Nwora. No Tyrese Halliburton, no Miles Turner. Buddy Hield out due to illness. That is his first game missed as a Pacer. Buddy Hield does not miss time.
You're right.
Period. Throughout his career. He has been extremely durable and available. Pacers have lost 5 of 6. Jake, they're starting to wobble for Wembanyama.
Is that what we're calling it? Wobble for... But his first name is Victor. Is there something we can come up with?
I just like saying his last name.
Wobble is kind of fun, though. And Wembanyama's fun, too. Elsewhere in the league last night, by the way, Milwaukee, who is going to be here on Wednesday, defeating the Pistons 126-117. Chris Middleton had 34. Brook Lopez, 24 and 14. Knicks, Suns, Nuggets, Pelicans, Timberwolves, and Clippers, all winners yesterday. Leading scorer last night in the NBA was? Do you have a guess?
Oh, it was kid for the Knicks, Quickly, right? Emmanuel Quickly.
40.
Jaden Ivey was up there, I believe.
Jaden Ivey last night had 32 for Detroit.
No Giannis for the Bucks last night, out due to illness, so we'll see about Wednesday. Again, Milwaukee has a back-to-back on the backside of that with Boston, a big one as they try to clinch the 1 seed. We have a Final Four in the women's tournament. A couple 1 seeds won last night. That would be South Carolina, the overwhelming favorite. They will take on Iowa in the Final Four. The other matchup will be Virginia Tech, who I think has a girl from Martinsville on their team. Someone's mentioned that to me, an earlier transfer from Purdue. They will take on LSU. So that'll be the women's Final Four coming up later this week in Dallas.
Seems like a lot of people will be rooting for Iowa around here, right?
Well, I think that'll be a really anticipated game in that you have the best team all season in South Carolina and then the best player and Caitlin Clark. So that'll be a fun one coming up in the women's Final Four.
She's just super dynamic and fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Steph Curry comparisons are very understandably. Like we said, Tucker Barnhart joining the show tomorrow. Major League Baseball opening day is Thursday. And the Indianapolis Indians, they get underway on Friday. They've got a home series to start. It'll be Friday night, 7:05 first pitch. Saturday and Sunday will be day games. I know kids eat free at those day games in Louisville all next week. So if you do want to see the Indians and the weather's cooperating, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your opportunity as they get their season underway. They've got one of our favorite teams, of course, and hopefully the weather cooperates. The Storm Chasers of Omaha are in town.
Kiana Traylor, by the way, from Virginia Tech, is from Martinsville. A really dumb question. Is she the daughter of April Traylor? I'm asking that rhetorically. I don't know.
She's a Purdue transfer, correct?
Allow me to look. Yes. She's got to be related to April Traylor, right?
Unfamiliar.
April Traylor was a really, really, really good player. 25 years ago for Martinsville. Got to be related.
Nate Atkins going to join us here at the top of the hour. Again, NFL owners meetings, a lot of Colts-related tidbits coming from Arizona yesterday. We'll touch on that coming up. Not just Lamar Jackson, but also it sounds like Ryan Kelly and Kenny Moore will be Colts here in 2023. And why did they not trade up to the number 1 overall pick? We'll discuss all that on the other side. Kevin and Query on a really nice start to this Tuesday.
The NTT IndyCar Series returns to action at Texas Motor Speedway Sunday morning at 11:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Indianapolis is under attack, at war with rampant crime, drugs, and homelessness. But Mayor Hogsett is unwilling to join the fight. In fact, under Mayor Hogsett, Indianapolis now has a murder rate higher than Chicago. Do you feel safe knowing that? But Jefferson Shreve is ready to take back Indianapolis. Jefferson Shreve will put more cops on the street and give them the support they need. We don't have to live like this. Jefferson Shreve is ready to rebuild, restore, and reimagine Indianapolis. He's a winner in business, so he knows how to lead a team to turn things around. No more empty talk. It's time for action. Because another term for Mayor Hogsett is another 4 years of the same problems, only worse. This may send Hogsett a message. Vote for Jefferson Shreve for a change. Paid for by Shreve for Mayor.
Do you need new tires? Let me tell you about AAA's new mobile replacement tire service, My Pit Crew. Jake Query here. My Pit Crew, a new mobile replacement tire service from AAA, offers a convenient way to have new tires installed on your car without ever leaving your home or office. The process is simple. Pick out tires online at aaa.com/mypitcrew. Schedule your appointment and then relax. A My Pit Crew technician will come to install and balance your new tires at a time and location convenient for you. That's correct. I did exactly that. Got brand new tires put on my vehicle right there in my own home when the My Pit Crew showed up right there at my house to put the new tires on my car. With My Pit Crew, they bring the tire shop to you. Plus, you don't even have to be a AAA member to use My Pit Crew, but AAA members do get a discount on their My Pit Crew tire installation. Visit aaa.com/mypitcrew to pick out tires and schedule your installation. Then relax and let them come to you. Don't spend another Saturday at the tire shop. Contact the My Pit Crew team today.
Dale, who are you? I'm you. I'm Future Dale. Navy Federal Credit Union sent me. Listen, your future depends on something important. Like saving the world? No, I said your future, not the future. You need to start saving with Navy Federal so you can buy your dream house.
With savings resources, no monthly fees, and accounts for your every need, you can plan for your future at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Insured by NCUA, an equal housing lender.
Wendy's 2 for $6 lets you mix and match some of our best items, like Dave Single with a 10-piece crispy nugs, medium strawberry lemonade with a spicy chicken sandwich, spicy chicken with a Dave Single with a strawberry lemonade, if you're into that. Chicken Sam, crispy nugs, strawberry lemonade, Dave's, nugs, Sam. Whew! Pick what you want at a price you want. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
For a limited time, price participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. On the card only. Single item at regular price.
And now a special motorcycle weather report from Progressive.
Well, today you can expect lots of cloud cover with 0% chance of raining on your parade because you'll be riding your motorcycle vroom vroom. That rumbling low pressure system beneath you should give way to a relaxing commute and the sudden urge to take the scenic route everywhere you go because dagnabbit, you're having fun out there. That's your forecast. Back to you.
This has been a special motorcycle weather report from Progressive, where every day's a beautiful day to ride with coverage from America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Get a quote today and see what you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Lowe's MVP's bonus days are back for pros. Right now, buy a DeWalt 20-volt Max Power Stack Battery 2-pack at $199 and get a select DeWalt Bear tool free. Plus, earn 3 times the bonus points on all Metabo HPT tools and products. Shop even more savings and bonus points offers during MVP's bonus days at Lowe's. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid 3/20 through 3/31. Subject to change. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. Visit Lowes.com/MVP's bonus points for details.
A new career offers new beginnings and unlimited opportunities. Begin your career with Eskenazi Health, ranked as Indiana's top hospital for community benefit by the Lown Institute. At Eskenazi Health, our patients are treated with compassion and skill. That's why Eskenazi Health is looking for professionals who share our mission and have a passion for serving their community. Enjoy excellent benefits, competitive pay, and unwavering leadership support. Learn more about Eskenazi Health careers at eskenazihealth.edu/careers.
JMV here for Get 'em Associates. 2023 is going to be that year for that custom remodel. So you stayed in your home during the housing boom or bought that home knowing you wanted to make that one change. Jason Get 'em and his team will provide a consultation about your custom remodel, interior and exterior, kitchens and baths, screen porches, and more. That's Get 'em Associates. 35 years of experience serving Central Indiana. Check their Google reviews and find them online. That's getem.com, GETTUM.com. Tell them JMV sent you.
Hey, it's Dan Dockich here. You know, for years on my radio show, I asked people to help me out. I needed a treatment, aches and pains. I couldn't lose weight. Well, guess what? I found a solution. I did. Affinity Whole Health. All you've got to do is go to feelgreatindy.com and look into it for yourself. The testosterone program that I am on has been a godsend. I've missed no workouts in 6 months. No more aches and pains. And I have lost weight. FeelGreatIndy.com is the place to go. Get started just like I did.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Was Luka Pizza bought out by the Sbarro folk?
Sbarro?
Sbarro, whatever it's called.
Sbarro.
Huh?
Sbarro.
There's no P in there. It's
not Sbarro.
It's SBARRO.
Firing
right?
on the old
That'd be
pronunciation
Sbarro,
guy
right?
here.
Yeah, it's Sbarro.
The meeting is until 3, but I always like to come to New York a little bit early and hit some of my favorite haunts, like right here, my favorite New York pizza joint. And I'm going to go get me a New York slice.
We're from Indiana. We can say whatever.
It's not Sbarro. I know there's no A. You say there's no P. There's no A in the front of the P.
Correct, but the B.
There's definitely a B.
Sbarro, right? But it's not a P
Sbarro?
sound. It's a B sound. Yeah. See.
Sbarro?
See.
That's O-B-A-R-O.
Can we get a commercial from them and find out?
Oh yeah, let me get right on it. I'll play other
maybe from,
commercials
like,
today.
Some great robot
I bet
voices.
they advertise in Jersey or something, right?
Hey, get some small pizza. Your mother.
من مطاعم سبارو هتلاقي الأكل بيتكلم طلياني.
Sbarro.
Aren't you glad you came back?
Oh man, I can't wait.
Which of the two of us is in the last year has been to the old country?
I don't know. Was that you?
Well, Mark, did you not do the Around the World?
Yeah, I did around. I was gonna say
Disney.
I definitely had some spaghetti at Epcot.
Okay, Now, Mark, you hate to admit that via Twitter, our friends at Sbarro settled the debate, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
And what did they say?
They tweeted at us and said, that one is easy. We get that asked probably 2 to 3 times a month. The family's last name is Sbarro, pronounced Sbarro. Some people elongate the S and make it Sbarro. But no, the S gets truncated by the bar. It might sound like Sparrow.
It doesn't say that last part you made up.
I'm literally reading it word for word.
That last part you made up. Okay. Good morning to you, by the way.
We're gonna
call
have
them
their
liars.
We're gonna have their social media intern on later today to discuss this.
We're bumping Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
Sparrow rep.
14 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock, mercifully. It is Jake Query and Kevin Bunn along with Mark Dykton. It's a good-looking morning out on Monument Circle. How are you on a Tuesday? Kevin, we were talking earlier about I feel like I'm just now, like I've now taken my shower, right? Like I'm logged into the computer. Everything's good. We can do an actual legitimate professional broadcast show here. The NFL owners meetings, you have attended these back when you were an employee of the Colts, correct?
Correct. Yep.
I think that there is and when I ask this, 30% of people in their car right now driving to work are going to go, this guy is a total idiot. And the other 70% are going to say, I'm glad somebody asked it. What exactly takes place at the owner meetings? Because it feels like this happens. It seems like we're in owners meetings every 6 weeks.
Yeah, these are the annual meetings. This is where GMs and head coaches join the ownership at these meetings. So it's a lot of league-wide assessment from the previous year. So you look into numbers from, revenue, potential rule changes. You meet from a competition committee standpoint. This is the big annual get-together for, again, the 3 big groups, owners, GMs, and coaches. They rotate between Arizona and Florida on an every other year basis, try to reach kind of the teams that are in the East and the West accurately. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. A lot of league-wide discussions towards, whether it's international games or, again, competition committee stuff. Then you have quarterly league meetings throughout the year where typically the only representation at those are the owners. Those happen even during the season, and obviously you wouldn't want your GM and your head coach to be attending those. We talked about the Lamar Jackson stuff a little bit earlier. What was your biggest takeaway, Jake, from what they had to say yesterday?
I tend to agree with you about Lamar Jackson and the fact that it feels like Baltimore is basically saying, yeah, we might have a player that is talking about wanting to be traded, but we have every intention of figuring this out and moving forward with him. So I think that probably settles itself out. I also think, based on what you were saying, which I think is totally astute, the one thing about the Colts, Kevin, I think that we became conditioned as fans and media around here under Bill Pullian to just assume that everything was smoke and mirrors and that they were never going to be up front. And I think Chris Ballard, for the most part, is pretty direct with what – I think Chris Ballard's frustration a lot of times probably, which come off as surly and arrogant, but I think a lot of his frustration is a lot of times he sits up there and he's like, look, guys, you're trying to twist a million ways what I'm saying. I'm telling you this is exactly what I think. And I think sometimes he's more transparent than we give him credit. And so in this situation, when Jim Irsay comes out and talks about like his hesitation with or his opposition to guaranteed contracts, that kind of answers that riddle right there, doesn't it?
I guess the other question is, does Lamar Jackson really want a guaranteed contract, and will he get that? I think that would be kind of the next step.
Yeah, I hate to say it this way, Kevin. That's problem's the wrong word. That's Baltimore's issue to figure out, right? Or
probably Lamar's issue to figure out, considering what type of market he wants to generate here. Ballard did have a comment yesterday and related to, and again, shout out to Zach Kiefer, Stephen Holder, Joel A. Erickson, the Colts.com crew out there at the league owners meetings, in that the reason why the Colts did not trade up to the number one pick is they didn't feel like they were there yet in their evaluation process to where a guy had separated himself and was worthy of such a big-time move. Ballard said, we're still doing our work. He also threw in there, feels like there's enough depth at quarterback in this draft. Again, insert your smokescreen comment here if you feel that. Jake, do you find it interesting at all that Carolina, who also has a new head coach, felt like they had gotten enough conviction about trading up to number one, whereas the Colts with a new head coach weren't there yet?
Explain what you mean by enough conviction.
So basically, Ballard said they didn't have conviction that there has been a quarterback that separated himself.
Right.
But basically, they hadn't done enough homework yet on this class. Carolina also has a new head coach, and they have a retaining general manager. It's very similar to what the Colts have from a Ballard is still here, new head coach standpoint. So Carolina, who also is, they did hire Frank Reich earlier than Shane Steichen, but they felt enough, whatever you want to call it, conviction's a word I guess that I used, to go ahead and trade up to number one. And if you read their comments, they make it clear that they're kind of getting up to number one, and they're still going to do homework. And that's kind of the side where I would tend to agree with, of you can't wait till you come to the final decision and then think that you're just going to be able to move up. Like, you almost have to get up there, and then once you're up there, you continue to do your homework, you finalize and cross your T's and dot your I's, etc., and hopefully you're swayed by one of those QBs, or if not, then you can try to maneuver and trade down. Again, it's interesting how Carolina felt that, but the Colts did not.
True or false? Frank Reich, while the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, lobbied to his bosses or put it out there who he thought would be a quarterback for the franchise moving forward that would be a multi-year quarterback in Carson Wentz.
And that Frank Reich said that to Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay?
Correct. True.
Yeah.
Okay. True or false, that blew up on him?
It did, yeah, undoubtedly.
True or false, that may have heavily cost him his job?
Certainly.
Okay. So true or false, therefore, Frank Reich, whether he realizes it even consciously or not, says, I am going to show to Indianapolis that, yes, in fact, I do have the ability to select a quarterback that has talent, and I do have the ability to, I do have the eye to know a great quarterback when I see one. And if they want to fire me because they feel that I erred in that decision-making, I'll just go ahead and show them by taking the one they actually might have wanted.
Yeah, I don't think Frank's got that sort of ego.
Again, I'm not saying consciously, but
I would
does
think
that
he would
motivate
have,
you a little bit subconsciously?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Again, I think Frank is pretty uniquely wired in that he just doesn't think in that realm. And obviously Carolina's GM, Scott Fitter, is going to have a huge say in what they do as well. You don't make a move from 9-1 just because you hire a new head coach. Like, you have some strong belief from your general manager in whatever, choice that you're going to make. But it's interesting to me, the two differences in the organizations and how they've approached this. In that the Colts were going to sit back and say, yeah, we're not going to make a move like that until we know there's a guy in this class. Whereas Carolina says, we can't afford to wait for that answer. We'll go ahead and get ahead of it. We'll go ahead and make the move now, and eventually we will get there. It's a little bit kind of like the Colts' approach to free agency. They oftentimes say, yeah, we're not going to be super proactive. We'll be more reactive. Well, I think you've got to be pretty proactive in personnel moves. And if you get to the end of March or whatever, the second week of April, and now all of a sudden if you're the Colts and you're like, man, CJ Stroud really blew us away in that top 30 visit. He is clearly the best quarterback in this class. Now you're blank out of luck.
Right.
Because now Carolina's already done that.
Right.
So I think that is the worry that I had. I thought it was a really interesting answer from Chris Ballard in the proactive nature of Carolina, albeit at a very steep price. I don't want to act like, it was just an easy thing for them to do, whereas the Colts are kind of taking the approach of what they've taken many times through free agency and say, no. We'll just sit back and we'll go ahead and at this point, Kevin, take the third choice at quarterback.
Broken record, I realize, but I'm still going to maintain. And by the way, thank you to those who pointed out to me that Traylor that plays for Virginia Tech is the niece of former Martinsville star April Traylor. So thanks for letting me bow tie that. Kevin, I'm going to maintain what I've said all along until I hear differently or feel differently about it. I think the Colts simply looked on the periphery, or on the surface, I should say, at the four quarterbacks that are thought to be 1 through 4 in no particular order, and determined that the gap 1 to 4 was not worth the gap that you would have to give up to move 3 spots. You know what I mean? I think it simply came down to that.
Which is interesting, because league-wide, it seems like the consensus is there is a big gap between the top 2 and the next 2.
Well, but league-wide, though, that depends on how much flexibility you have of your roster of the pieces to give up and what your needs are. You know what I mean? The cost of what you would give up to move up is different from one team to the next based on how many assets you already have.
Dan says this: Panthers operated like any other franchise that desperately needs a QB. Colts operated like Ballard wants to continue to be the most underwhelming GM in the league while somehow keeping his job.
Telling you.
Truth to that?
I think that Ballard knows that when you select a quarterback, the clock begins. And especially if you mortgage it and move all the way up to number 1 and you trade pieces to get that, then there's even more of a pressure on you. You take the 4th one out there and it doesn't work out, you have a little bit of that flexibility of like, well, but they were picking 4th, et cetera, et cetera.
And Chris Ballard also mentioned yesterday Kenny Moore, Ryan Kelly for the foreseeable future. I see them being Colts. I would think if they are serious about a Lamar Jackson pursuit, they would need to clear cap space. Those two would have been crystal clear candidates in clearing cap space. So I think you can kind of read some actions, Jake, and saying this Lamar Jackson thing we probably should pump the brakes on. I feel like we have been there, but I don't know if everybody's.
Well, it's fun for fans to
front.
think about. I get it, right?
Sure.
It's fun for fans. It is. That's hard to say. It's fun for fans to discuss, but I don't know how realistic it is.
Nate Atkins from the Indianapolis Star. He'll join us next to talk more about the tidbits from the league owners' meetings on the other side.
The Ride with JMV.
Ball State head coach Michael Lewis joins us. I was kind of curious, how do you handle the transfer portal?
For us, I think we got to learn how to navigate it to best build a roster here at Ball State to be competitive year in and year out. So we're in there looking for players that fit our program, and then obviously we've got somebody in there that we're trying to help chase their dream of playing college basketball at the highest level.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Find what you love at Total Wine & More. So many bottles to choose from at the lowest price. It's easy to find your favorite. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
Ensure your comfort year-round. Join Marshall Mechanical Heating and Cooling Service Club from Johnson County's premier dealer. Call themarshallnow.com, your American Standard Air dealer.
Mom, Dad, Sis?
Here we go again.
Why are you in a suit? Picture, if you will, a world with the best network imaginable. I'm talking about the Xfinity 10G network. Go on. Mom, remember how your reality shows wouldn't load with all of us online? Now you can binge. And Susie, we'll have fast internet in the basement.
Nice.
If you have any questions, here's my card.
This is just your name on a gum wrapper.
Introducing the 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through April 23rd, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Spring in Indy. And since 2001, Rhino Shield has been covering Indiana homes and businesses. Just ask Mike.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad, and I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
And Rhino Shield's not paint, it's better.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Business owners, you too can get the 25-year protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
They started on the building. They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Here's owner Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl. Go Rhino.
Don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TIRE for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TIRE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TIRE.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis. The Astros host the White Sox in the Major League Baseball season opener, Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
We'll get to Nate Atkins from the Indianapolis Star to talk more about league's owners meetings, Lamar Jackson, Chris Bauer's comments, Jim Irsay, all of that here in just a second. It's that time of year, though. We are 2 months away from the Indianapolis 500. Jake, the Legends Day concert will be Brad Paisley the night before the running of the Indianapolis 500. I think last year was the first year they had moved that over to White River.
Yeah, they did it, and again this year.
Yeah, so the TCU amphitheater over there. So it'll be Brad Paisley, pretty well-known country act there. Russell Dickerson and Jackson Dean will cap the day. It's a 7 p.m. show on Saturday, May 27th.
And by the way, I had heard that the Carb Day Act announcement was imminent, and I have not heard if they've officially made that, so I don't want to say who I heard it is, but I have not heard yet.
And again, Paisley Saturday night. Carb Day, of course, would be Friday.
Right.
Over inside of Turn 4. All right, let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. And again, from the Star, Nate Atkins joins us out at the owners' meetings. It is Joel A. Erickson from the Star, Nate making the Pro Day tour. And let's start there. Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, Will Levis and C.J. Stroud, both you were in attendance for last week?
Yep, made it to both of those two. It was 2 of those pro days in 3 days, and then the one we decided to skip out on was Bryce Young, just because travel was a little hectic with that one, and just setting the odds, I thought he was probably the least likely of those 3 to be a Colts option. But yeah, it's been a busy week, and then heading out tomorrow for Anthony Richardson.
Okay, first question I would ask is this. So you watched, just to recap, you watched Stroud and Levis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If you did not follow the NFL, and let's say you did not actively follow college football, but you have a knowledge of the game itself, and you just simply went in and watched those 2 guys with no preconceived notions of what they did last year in college, what the level of program they're playing for, etc., just based on what they did on the field, in your opinion, the more impressive was who?
It's still C.J. Stroud, but it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. C.J. came out there and did something very similar to what he did at the Combine, which is just kind of throw, every level of the field, every type of concept with pretty good consistency, ball placement accuracy, all the things you kind of hear about him. He showed off a little bit more of some of the throws on the run and the way that's kind of making his arm play up in a way that I think's gone underrated in this class, where Anthony Richardson and Will Levis have, such incredible arm talents. I think CJ is better than he's gotten credit for. But at the same time, Will Levis really made a good impression too. He hit some throws that just there's only a few humans on the planet that can throw. And there's one point I saw him, he sort of dropped back in a 9-step drop, sort of drifted in the pocket just to buy enough time for his receiver to get down the field, and lost it 75 yards into the end zone on a dime, right in the breadbasket of his receiver. And it's just throws like those that you can understand why coaches why they get roped in. And there's a lot to dissect with Will Levis. Obviously, he's behind these others, at least behind Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud for a reason, not nearly as polished or accomplished. And you saw some of that too. Some of the, he had more incompletions than C.J. did, but just the sheer difficulty of throws that he did make. And then I think the way that he explained how much he's trying to work on some of his lower body mechanics and how aware he is that he's not refined, but what it's going to take to actually get there. I thought he made a big statement there in a way that I wasn't entirely expecting.
Nate, I don't want to undermine Will Levis's physical characteristics because, as you just pointed out, there are a lot. And at the same time, I don't want to undermine Anthony Richardson mentally because I do think he's wired in a way that would be attractive to a lot of NFL teams. But if you're going to go for the biggest strength on each, it would be Richardson's just raw physical attributes. And it would, for the most part, I think a lot of people like what Levis had to experience at Kentucky, dealing with some adversity, how he handled that, his willingness to work, all of those things. When you look at it in both of those situations, almost Levis from the neck up, Richardson, his combine numbers, which one do you think would be more attractive to the Colts? The neck up, sort of mental characteristics, or the physical traits of Richardson?
I think they'll be tempted with both, but I think just if you break it down that way, I think Will Levis's body work is a little bit more tempting because if you hear what they lay out and what they really want in a quarterback, of course, everyone would love athleticism and great arm strength and and everything else that comes with it. But they always bring up the neck up, and that's kind of how Shane Steichen really rose up through this. When he was a quarterback at UNLV, when he was in high school, had to put on weight just to be able to be a Division I quarterback, and everything for him was obsession with that position and making that work.
Steichen hammers that home every chance he can get.
Yeah, he sure does. And that's so every single time he brings up the obsession. And what we see with like Jalen Hurts is he's a great athlete, and there's been so much talk about having a running quarterback. But what really made those two connect was how, Jalen Hurts wanted to live in the facility and be in there on his off day for 12 hours. And just the sheer grind that it takes to kind of make improvements on your game kind of incrementally and over time. And that's where I think Will Levis he's just shown more. I can't say that that's not Richardson. I'll try to get a better sense for that this week. But Will Levis, that's absolutely there. And that was kind of the biggest thing that stood out to me from talking to his teammates was just how much he persevered through last year and kind of lifted that up to where Kentucky went 7-6 last year. It wasn't as good as they were supposed to be. But when you consider all the the talent they did lose the NFL, what they were up against in the SEC, the fact that they had an offensive coordinator who's his third in 3 years and they fired him by the end of the year, like that could have blown up a lot worse than it did. And all those guys all credited Will Levis for that, and I think when a guy's on his way out the door, the number of players that will come back and just, praise him for that kind of obsession and humility, it really stood out because it's very easy for Will Levis to just kind of make excuses about his situation or fall back on the measurables and just act like he's good enough. He knows he's not good enough in all these areas, but he also recognizes that the things he went through have prepared him for the NFL, where he even talks about going to teams high in the draft. These are not going to be, great teams. These are teams you have to build, and he really wanted to be there from the ground floor up, sort of the way he was with the Kentucky program in a way, and I thought that really stood out.
Levis, who, again, Nate, I'm going to stick with until I hear differently. I think that's who they're zeroing in on. I really do. But that said, I'm curious. Levis had talked at the Combine about how big his arm was, right? Sometimes I think guys get in trouble when they have gotten by in their career with the strength of their arm and being able to just basically overpower the football through windows. And therefore, that causes them to have hesitancy of picking up in NFL reads and how quickly the gap closes. Did he show touch? Did he show like timing and touch? Or was it simply the strength of the arm that you were impressed by? Talking about Levis.
He showed more timing and touch than I think I was necessarily anticipating, definitely more than he showed at the Combine. And, you go back to his college career, he completed around 65% of his passes. The accuracy levels for him actually were pretty good. It just was the bad plays are very bad, the sacks and the turnovers and the ways that he would try and kind of drag that team that was up against it in the SEC. But, I thought he showed, definitely improving mechanics and improving ball placement. There were some misses, though, and he missed a, fade route down the sideline. He missed a couple just right on the sideline, but it was close. It was like situations where his receiver would get 1 foot in but not two. He is working on kind of throwing different types of balls that are more catchable rather than, just a constant fastball. I think his receivers at Kentucky weren't always ready for that, the way that, if he played with C.J. Stroud's receivers at Ohio State, they would have been a little bit more ready for that. But he talks about this stuff constantly. I just was really blown away by his self-awareness, and that's kind of how the Kentucky program was built when you think back to how Mark Stoops got there and pretty much populated that roster with guys from Ohio and Michigan, because he's not going to play the same game as Alabama and LSU and just go for their recruits. They were going to understand what they were and what they could do. And Will Levis is kind of that too, where he talked about at times relying too much on that arm strength and being able to throw kind of just arm through it when his feet were not right or when he's being chased. And now he's had to really improve upon that. And again, it's tough because these settings, there's no pass rush, there's no actual defense out on the field. So it's not as adverse as it's going to be. But I thought he showed quite a bit of growth in that area. And it's definitely a thing he's going to work on. And, but you still have to wonder about it because it's been 5 years and he's a fifth-year college player, and there is question about if it's not there yet, can it be there all the way as far as footwork and feel in the pocket? But he's absolutely worked at it, and I do think he showed some strides.
Yeah, Nate Atkins is with us here from the Indianapolis Star. Shifting gears to where your colleague is right now, Joel Erickson. I think he got the better pick of the litter here going to the owners' meetings in Arizona. But it's a lot of work out there, and Jim Irsay spoke last night, Nate. And it almost seemed like, in a way, Irsay kind of created this whole Lamar Jackson Colts chatter as a bit of a moot point, in that he was very adamant that guaranteed contracts are nothing he wants any part of and doesn't think the NFL should be part of that. We'll see if Lamar's demands continue to be that. But then when you toss in the draft compensation you would have to send to Baltimore on top of the contract you'd be handing him, Irsay appeared to be pretty against that sort of idea. Did you get a similar impression?
Yeah, it was interesting is that Irsay did kind of pour cold water on it, and yet when Chris Ballard talked, I thought he talked a little bit more glowingly about it. We've had so many teams come out and just say that they're not in the Lamar Jackson hunt, and that is definitely not what Chris Ballard said. But it does sound like something that they have to think through. There's so many different layers to it that it is more than just, it is more than just the contract. It is more than just the draft compensation. It's the number of guarantees. It's trying to figure out how much to guarantee for a player who, while electric, has missed 10 games the past 2 years, and trying to figure out how much of, is that going to be in your control? Can you kind of transition him to a safer style of football under Shane Steichen, who they clearly are putting a lot on at that position to build an offense around him like he did Jalen Hurts? And can you combine that with Jonathan Taylor and, better receivers, at least in Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce, and a bit more of a pass-heavy approach? Can you lessen these injuries? I think that's the best shot that they have. At least I would say if Chris Ballard is interested in this, it's got to be this pitch to Lamar to sort of make the Colts a more attractive destination and get him down from some of the guarantees about the contract. If you could talk him into signing a 3-year deal that gets him a lot of money but takes a little bit of a leap of faith as far as the guarantees are concerned, to where if he can prove he's durable and if this works, sign another deal at the age of 29, I think that's the one route that could make this feasible and that Jim Irsay would get more on board with. But we know for a while now Jim Irsay has been worn down by always looking for the next veteran option. He was obviously very hurt by the way that things went at the end with Andrew Luck, where you have a Hall of Fame type of talent at quarterback and injuries did him away. So there's a lot of reason to believe that this option would scare him too. But they have to look into it and weigh it out right now, because they're not in control of how this quarterback draft is going to go. They have to really love a couple of guys in here to feel like that they're going to be able to answer it this year, or find another bold route. And the other bold routes out there, Lamar Jackson's the one kind of right in front of them, and someone's going to step up and become that team for Lamar, I think. And that's why the Colts, as people think through it, just on paper, they could be that team. But it's going to take this kind of compromise between Jim Irsay and Lamar Jackson on the contract and the guarantees for that to actually be realistic.
I'm going to ask a question for either one of you guys. It was asked to me, and I think it's a good question. I think people find it interesting. At the owners' meetings, when the owners are all in a room, you walk in and it's got, there's all the tables. Who's the owner that Jim Irsay is most likely to sit down with? Like, which one? I'm sure all of these guys have their guys or gals have the owner that they're the friendliest with, or that they just seem to bond with the most. Kevin, I'll start with you, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of those names we mentioned earlier, Jake, the Rooneys, the Hunts, the Maras, the long tenured owners in the NFL. I mean, Jim Irsay is, they came to my wedding, all of those things. I would tend to think those would be the people. I don't believe him and Daniel Snyder are going to sit at the table together.
Probably a fair statement, yes. Yeah. That one would seem to make sense.
Nate, anybody else you could guess on the Irsay front? It just seems like such a, he really wants to be this steward for NFL ownership.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you want to be that, then Jerry Jones is always on that list, especially as we talk about longtime owners and kind of guys who help steer the future of the league. Jim Irsay is all about that. So I think any of those kind of guys who are owners who are really entrenched in history and in the power of the league, that's kind of where he'd go.
Nate, I do want to bring up something that I thought you, I don't know if you wrote a piece on it, but I saw you were tweeting about it late last week. If you look at the draft order right now, and again, Nate Atkins from the Indianapolis Star is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. It's Carolina 1, it's Houston 2, it's Arizona 3, it's Indy 4. Let's just say that's the draft order a month from, I think it's a month from today, maybe a month from yesterday. And quarterbacks go to Carolina, Houston, and Indy. With how those three teams have operated this offseason, how would you kind of assess how each one has tried to support or build around what seems to be a rather inevitable quarterback selection for each of the three teams?
Yeah, it's interesting because those are the three teams that coming in this year felt like most likely almost certainties to go and draft a quarterback, but two of them have almost sort of leaned more into that even. The fact that Houston is at number 2, and there's no hiding the fact that they love Bryce Young, and so they've gone out and done some things that set up an environment for a young quarterback, like obviously getting a coach that people are excited about, but locking up Laramie Tunsil and signing Dalton Schultz, the tight end from the Cowboys. They did a few things that kind of set up a quarterback to step into that situation and felt good at where they were. And then Carolina obviously has gone all the way in by trading up to number 1, even trading away a receiver like DJ Moore in order to do it, and then replace him with other talent out there like Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders and now DJ Chark. They've kind of thrown everything at creating an environment for a young passer, even if it means, really doubling money this year and running up your cap costs this year, and obviously trading away picks for this year. They've made it all about they're not missing on their quarterback choice, and they're not missing on having some talent around him, whereas I think Indianapolis is very far in the other way, is that they feel like this is kind of a longer process to get the roster in that place, and without really knowing who that quarterback's going to be, how soon he's going to need to step on the field, they just haven't kind of set everything else up yet. They haven't gone out and gotten really any veteran starters. They got Isaiah McKenzie from the Bills to play slot receiver. That's it as far as guys around the quarterback who would come in and help this thing out. And so it just feels like almost a patient approach, or maybe you say cautious approach from them, by just not knowing who that quarterback's going to be and exactly what he needs yet.
Nate, last one for me, and appreciate the time this morning. Let's put quarterback number 1 on the need list. Right now, what would be 2, 3, and 4 on your Colts need list?
I think cornerback has to be number 2. Things have just changed in an interesting way this offseason when Stephon Gilmore gets traded to the Cowboys. And then you look around and Isaiah Rodgers is in contract year, Kenny Moore's in a contract year, and they don't really have another option at the outside corner spot, and it's such a premium position. So that one has definitely risen to number 2 for me. And beyond that, I think it's kind of pretty close between, I think they need a starting right guard for sure. So in terms of you got to go out and find a starter. Right guard is one spot, and then I think slot receiver still kind of sits in that mode where it's not the number 1 or 2 receiver necessarily. You did sign Isaiah McKenzie, but just what we're talking about, if you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback and you got to give him support and guys that he can really trust, and they definitely need numbers there. So you can talk yourself into what they have at left tackle or tight end, at least guys to give an audition to see if they can hold that job this year. But I think right guard and slot receiver are positions where they definitely have to add some more to give their rookie a chance.
It's so funny to me because, Nate, I agree with you on corner, and then I also look at it and I think, and it almost feels like corner is a situation of need that they created. And I'm not just talking the Gilmore trade, but it just, you know what I mean? It's not a position seemingly that the last few years that they've really stockpiled and grown talent. Am I off base?
No, you're on point with that because Isaiah Rodgers is the one. There's 2 starters they have currently at those 3 spots, and one of them was a 6th-round pick. They drafted Isaiah Rodgers Sr. to be a kick returner who sort of surprised them as a corner, but he's entering a contract year. And they traded away Rocky Sin last year, brought in Stephon Gilmore, but that ended up being a 1-year experiment, and they haven't been finding replacements for them yet or drafting guys that really are developmental to draft assets to take a spot that tends to need high assets to fill. I mean, a guy like Dallas Flowers is a UDFA who impressed as a kick returner and got some snaps late in the year, but that you don't sign a UDFA corner with the idea of making him the starter eventually. So suddenly that need has come very, very big on them in a way that, you think about Chris Ballard, he doesn't love to necessarily spend up and hit the high market prices in free agency at certain positions where the market keeps going up. Cornerback's one of those. So they're kind of in a weird spot here where now all of a sudden they really need to draft guys because hasn't been a focus the past couple of years.
Yeah, obviously Quincy Wilson, a huge miss. The trade of Rock Yassin. They have had that veteran run with some decent success. It looks like that stopped. I mean, they had like the Pierre Desir to Xavier Rhodes to Stephon Gilmore. But like you said, Nate, if they're going to go play tomorrow, it's Isaiah Rodgers, an undrafted free agent, and Dallas Flowers and Kenny Moore as their three corners. Okay, Anthony Richardson Pro Day is Thursday. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, he will be in Gainesville with all your coverage down there. Nate, safe travels. Enjoy the Florida weather, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Nate Atkins right there from the Indianapolis Star.
Have you been to Gainesville, Florida?
No. How close is it to Jacksonville?
That's a good question. I think it's, I used to have this.
I just drove through Gainesville the other day.
Did you really?
Yes.
I used to have a skill where I could, I had this really weird skill where I could very accurately tell you the mileage between two U.S. cities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that one from Gainesville to Jacksonville, I mean, I'm going to guess 105 miles, but that's strictly a guess. Mark, can you?
It's a little less than that. No, it's like an hour and 10 minutes. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What do we do on this program?
We educate and entertain.
Thank you.
Because Gainesville's more like middle of the state, right?
I think it's in the Panhandle, isn't it?
More water. Well, Tallahassee, I think, would qualify.
Gainesville's
as
more
big-time Panhandle.
central, I would say.
Okay. Now, did you stop in Gainesville?
No, I was tempted to. They have big Steve Spurrier signs. He's got a restaurant kind of like Shula's. Stop at Steve's.
You get the visor for the old ball
Spurrier's.
coach?
No, but I was like, I was kind of tempted to stop.
72 miles. 72 miles.
Nate makes a great point here. If Lamar Jackson is willing to sign a 3-year, non-fully guaranteed deal with the Colts, then the Ravens will 1,000% match it. Jake, it's starting to feel like if the Colts are to throw an offer sheet out there, which again, that means they have to create cap space, it just feels like the Pacers with DeAndre Ayton all over again.
Well, not only that. Do you believe, or does anybody believe, that the Baltimore Ravens, we haven't even discussed this factor of it. Does anybody really think the Baltimore Ravens are going to trade Lamar Jackson to an AFC team? Doesn't that have Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers written all over it?
Yeah, it feels like one of those NFC South teams should be
in
the mix here.
Why would they trade him? Essentially,
I mean, unless they're enamored with the idea of Anthony Richardson at 4. Okay, Colts, give us your number 4 pick. Give us your 2024 pick. That gives us 2 selections in next year's generational type draft. We'll take Anthony Richardson, who we think can be the next Lamar, or a Lamar-like, maybe with more durability because he's got more weight on him. I don't know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
I mean, it seems like Baltimore would be saying, we got into the playoffs with a somewhat healthy Lamar Jackson. So now what we're going to do is we're going to allow Indianapolis, who is within our own conference, to become what we were last year and lift them up into playoff contention. Why would they?
And again, none of John Harbaugh's comments yesterday indicated that. I did think the timing was pretty interesting that Lamar Jackson fires off that tweet making it public what he said to the Ravens, I guess, behind closed doors. On March 2nd, I requested a trade. He fired off that tweet literally as John Harbaugh was sitting down for his 30-minute media session.
Right.
I know he doesn't have an agent, but someone is guiding him in doing that. That timing was way too coincidental.
When you have to give up 2 first-round picks, can you give up 2 first-round picks in 1 year? Like if you were the Lions, could you give up the 6 and the 18?
I think there's some.
Lamar Jackson.
It's a good question. I want to say there's some technicalities in that you have to give up your own.
Okay.
So I don't think you'd be able to do that. But I know some Colts fans have asked, could the Colts wait? Could they draft somebody at 4 and then go get Lamar Jackson in May? They could do that. Now, obviously, you'd give up your 2024 and your 2025. Plus, Baltimore might look at that and say, oh, man, you just went from having the 4th pick that we could have gotten to you're going to have Lamar. Theoretically, you'll be better than you won't be drafting 4 again.
Right.
So I do think that is part of it. There was a Jim Irsay comment last night that I thought I couldn't agree more on. So we'll hit on that coming up here. Again, Jeremiah Johnson going to join us at 9 o'clock. For now, let's hit a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Last night in the association, it was a rough one for the Pacers taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Here we were. We'd been talking all day long about how Luka Doncic was going to be watching the game from the sidelines because of a suspension for picking up 16 techs. Maybe we can get Jeremiah to clarify that, because he did play last night. I'm not certain it would have even made a difference either way. 127-104, Mavs over the Pacers last night. Mavs snap a 4-game losing streak. Doncic went for 25. Jaden Hardy had 20 points. The Pacers now a 3-game skid. Benedict Mathurin, though, I guess is the one silver lining, right, Kev?
Yeah, he definitely had, I would say some moments on the defensive end and a couple turnovers, but 26 points for him. Continues to bounce back after a couple really quiet nights for him. Didn't get to the foul line in either game over the weekend, but nice bounce back from him. But, the Pacers, as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's like they're kind of just peeking around the corner, waving the white flag. Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner both did not play last night. You had Buddy Hield out due to illness. The oldest player in their starting lineup was Jordan Nwora. So again, a little bit of, I think, about as close as like Pacers tank stuff that you're going to get. They are now 10 games under 500 for the first time all year. And Jake, it's not the magic number, it's the tragic number. The tragic number is 4 for the Pacers to be officially eliminated from the playoffs. 6 to go. That would be a combination of Pacers losses and Bulls wins to be officially eliminated. And that means playing as well. I should clarify.
I would think they might get one of those 4 checked off the list when Milwaukee comes to town Wednesday, right?
You would think, granted.
But Giannis is under the weather, right?
Didn't they beat the Bucks in Milwaukee without Halliburton and all of him a few weeks back? Yeah, Giannis did not play last night. And again, I think it's worth pointing out, the Bucks have a back-to-back Thursday with Boston. So they don't play tonight, but if you're Mike Budenholzer, do you look at that and say, gosh, we surely can beat Indiana? Granted, they didn't do it a few weeks ago. But if you look at the standings right now, Jake, Milwaukee's 2 up on Boston. So if you beat them on Thursday, that would probably lock up the number 1 seed in the East, which is huge because then that means you avoid having to beat both Boston and Philly to get to the NBA Finals.
One other note,
could you
by the
imagine
way.
if Kevin was still sweating 30 wins? If he was like 20, the Pacers had 28 wins right now, what his mental state
He's
would
already
be?
spent the money.
Well, I would literally have the shirt off permanently at that point. I'd be sweating.
The sweater's very nice, though, by the way.
Thank you.
Jaden Ivey, 32 last night for Detroit, by the way. We mentioned that earlier. Second highest point total last night in the NBA.
We've got a Final Four in the women's bracket. Little Indiana flavor with Virginia Tech. Her last name, kind of Taylor, is that right, Jake? Trailer.
She is the niece of former Martinsville. I think April Trailer might have been Miss Basketball, right?
And the mom played at LSU, is that correct?
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Okay.
Danielle, I think, is her mother. So, yeah, she transferred from Purdue, plays for Virginia Tech. It'll be Virginia Tech and LSU on one side. That sounds like a great old-school BCS. Was that Michael Vick against LSU in the national title, or was that Florida State? I think it was Florida State.
Florida State, yes.
Sounds like an old-school BCS national title game. That'll be one side of the women's Final Four. The other one will be highly anticipated. That will be South Carolina, been dominant all season long. They will take on the star, really, of college basketball this season, and Caitlin Clark in Iowa. Those are the 2 matchups coming up this weekend from the women's Final Four.
I don't know what other sports there are to talk about right now, right?
I feel
NFL
like,
owners meeting?
I do feel like it's time to just kind of mention, MLB opening day. We are 48 hours away from it. That will be Thursday. All 30 teams are in action on Thursday, majority in the afternoon. Then really scales back on Friday before you pick up the series again on Saturday and Sunday. If you are looking for something to do this weekend and the weather looks like this here in Indy, Indians, Victory Field, 3-game series. Friday night, Storm Chasers of Omaha at 7:05.
I'll be there.
Saturday and Sunday,
How great is it, man?
1:35. First pitch. Kids eat free, Mark.
I know. Well, I'll be there Friday. We're going Friday night. So
Love it.
They got the beer bats again?
I hope so. I'll be first in line. Get out of my way!
You got to think if they're going to have them for any game this season, opening night would be the night to
Now,
have
do they still do the deal on opening night where if the temperature's not over a certain amount, you get the ticket free?
Yeah, 60-degree night. So. Yeah, it's if it doesn't meet 60, you get another ticket to an April game. I believe that's accurate.
They just had the deal going on over the weekend where it was buy 2 tickets for the price of 1. So that's what we did. That's how we got in.
It's a pretty good deal as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Louisville next week, so if you want to get a chance to see them right now,
it's just great. Going out to Victory Field and just sitting out there, and I look forward to it.
Oh, the girls can't wait to see Rowdy again.
Yeah, we did a couple of outfield little picnic games last year, so we'll definitely do that coming up this season. All right, we'll get back to the Colts conversation. Again, owners' meetings right now in Arizona. Some interesting comments from Jim Irsay last night. We'll share those coming up next.
Tavern Tour 23 brought to you by Evan Williams continues Friday the 31st at Whiskey Business on Pendleton Pike. Join JMV from 3 to 6 p.m. for great food and Evan Williams. Whiskey Business on Pendleton Pike.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TIRE for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TIRE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TIRE.
Hey there, Jake Quarry for the Good Feet store of Indiana. Mark, just out of curiosity, your computer is like
it's on the fritz.
Is it going to blow up on us?
I hope not.
Because if I've got to run away, it's not an issue because I've got my arch supports from the Good Feet store. So not going to hobble like I've done in years past with my plantar fasciitis. Thanks to the Good Feet store of Indiana, no pain when it comes to my feet. That's not always been the case until I found the Good Feet store and got the arch support inserts interchangeable, one pair of shoes to the next from the Good Feet store of Indiana. It's a very simple process with no appointment necessary. Simply walk into the store. Chris, for example, works at both stores, but they got a well-trained staff that all know the drill, which is you simply go in, stand on a pad that kind of gives an imprint of your foot, and then they're going to get you an arch support that you can put in your shoes and walk around right there in the store for a test to find out the results that you can get from the Good Feet store of Indiana. I absolutely love the results that I have gotten, and I'm confident you folks will feel the same. Whether you want to be preventative about foot pain or you want to alleviate foot pain that is bothering you right now, the Good Feet store of Indy is your path to success. Check them out online at goodfeetindy.com.
This is C.J. McCollum, star of the New Orleans Pelicans and co-host of the C.J. McCollum Show.
McCollum at the horn for three. Got it!
Inviting you to join Israel Gutierrez and me once a week as we discuss names and storylines in and around the NBA with the inside perspective you can only get from someone in the locker room and on the floor. Listen to great guests and players such as Brandon Ingram and Andre Iguodala, and input from a great team of ESPN Insider regulars like Brian Windhorst, Tim McMahon, and Mark Spears. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
At Great Clips, we know you live a full life, which is why we're full of ways to make getting a great haircut easier. With Clip Notes, we save your haircut details so you can get the look you love from the skilled stylists at any Great Clip salon. Plus, with convenient online check-in, you save time too. So even when you're not thinking about your next haircut, we are. And when you choose Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Download our app today. Join a salon team. Visit jobs.greatclips.com.
It has no beginning.
The start of something special right here, man. Let's go.
And no end.
Look, you got to get your team ready to play.
It is a constant.
Get a rhythm going.
Through every season.
Come back again.
It is always Colts season. Firing, hiring, free agency, the combine, the schedule, the draft, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, kickoff, the offseason. Questions is a season to be answered for this Colts team. The best Colts coverage is on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
What a glorious looking day.
I thought it was supposed to be like gross today.
I thought the rest of the week was supposed to be pretty good, maybe dicey on Friday.
Okay.
Far cry from what we had yesterday.
Yeah.
Driving. And Jake, there was a comment Jim Irsay made last night that I could not agree more with in terms of how the Colts need to operate this offseason at quarterback, or frankly should have operated before. And again, Zach Kiefer, Stephen Holder, Joel A. Erickson, the Colts.com crew, they're out there at the owners' meetings. Zach specifically had this quote from Jim Irsay last night. When you have a rookie quarterback, it gives you the opportunity to build a franchise for the first 3 or 4 years. He said, referring to the contract flexibility a rookie deal affords. If you have a rookie QB, you know you're going to have a chance for those years to really have extra dollars to make your team better. Again, I could not agree more in that is the proper way to try and build a long-standing contending team. Jake, we mentioned this quite often back in the month of January, but you had 7 AFC playoff teams last year, and it was not a coincidence at all that all 7 of them were quarterbacked by drafted QBs from those franchises.
Gives you a lot of flexibility, right?
6 of the 7, I think, were taken in the top half of round 1. Yeah, the rookie deal is very manageable for the first 4 years. Then you can tack on a 5th year when you draft the guy in the first round. That adds to it, and you're able to make moves. You're able to build and do things a little bit differently. And, Jake, let's look at the Colts right now. They're hesitant to make moves in their current situation. You imagine if you threw Lamar Jackson on top of that? Like, they're in a decent cap situation now, and they're hesitant.
Right.
Can you imagine if they were giving Lamar Jackson $150-some million?
Yeah, they're up against the limit at that point.
They wouldn't do anything.
By the way, I don't know if it's the sunlight in here or we've done this show for how long? Mark, how long have we done this show?
Since November 2021.
So that would be how long?
A little over a year.
So we're at like 16 months?
I think we're approaching a year and a half.
I've never noticed this before, Kevin, and it's pot calling the kettle black, admittedly, but you got some gray coming in on the temples.
Oh, I've got a lot of gray. Yeah, and a lot of it has grown, my doctor was saying, in the last 18 months.
Is it the lack of sleep?
I think I'm going to do the PAI that JMV's done.
I mean, they obviously have great results.
Great results. Rick DeMolin, I know, has come on all airwaves, spoken very highly of them. Darren Andrews, a great human. I've enjoyed chatting with him. Do you think I should do it?
One tip I will simply tell you on the sides: if you cut your hair short, it's not as noticeable that it's gray.
But wouldn't you say this is short?
Yeah. Oh, it is. I don't know. I don't typically see you. Usually, you're wearing a hat. Now you're all spruced up because you got to go teach today. So that's the first time I've really noticed.
Great clips in and out yesterday. I think it was a 6-minute haircut. It was beautiful.
Nothing wrong with that. The Colts, I don't know, Kevin, that it's the amount of money. Look, I think Lamar Jackson's a great player. There's no disputing that he is. And I don't know why it is that it almost feels like Lamar Jackson has not been given the proper credit for being the upper echelon quarterback that he is. Like, we talk about, Burrow and Mahomes and Allen. I don't know why he's not in that same breath. I think because he is so dynamic with running the ball in space that we overlook the fact that he is a good passer. I mean, he has a good arm. He's been a wonderful player. There's no doubt about it. But guaranteed money, I understand and I applaud him for that sort of a demand or drawing that line in the sand. But I just don't know. I think especially for a guy that has some precedent of injuries and inconsistency of availability,
and that's
there's
my biggest
a danger
issue.
there. Yeah,
that's
the
right
danger.
there is my biggest issue. When the injuries have occurred each of the last 2 seasons, he's gotten hurt in early December each of the last 2 years, and where the injuries have occurred. We're talking knee sprain and ankle sprain each of the last 2 years. So December, lower body, that tells me what? Wear and tear on a guy that really needs his legs to be successful. And when you've missed, I think it's 10 of 34 games, 10 of something like that, 10 of 35 games, I don't know what the exact ratio is over the last 2 years, that is alarming. I think one of the things that is kind of eye-popping, Jake, is Vegas sent out an over-under for Lamar Jackson for next season on games played. Vegas sets the over-under at 12.5. Let's just say Vegas is right on the money. Let's say he plays 12 or 13. You paying a guy that he's going to miss a third of the season? Like they are predicting he will miss a third of a NFL season. That's too much of a risk for me, and it's trending in this direction. And if you want to look at on the field, again, his passing numbers, I think, to your point, I think he deserves a little bit more credit than it feels like he gets. But they have started to dip a bit. His passing numbers have started to dip a little bit. And if his running is going to deteriorate in any way, that's more pressure on his passing. And I just don't think wonderful talent, MVP, but we've seen it with these style of quarterbacks. MVP at 23 does not mean you're an MVP at 28. The guys that operate a little bit more from the pocket and use their legs intermittently, they have the ability to have, I think, more staying power.
Here's a really dumb question for you. Gardner Minshew. I mean, I've seen Gardner Minshew play. I think he's a pretty serviceable quarterback. I think obviously he's a very good backup quarterback for sure, and probably for some franchises could be a starter in a stopgap situation. That said, Kevin, Gardner Minshew does or does not use his legs?
Oh, I would not really. No.
Okay.
No.
So let's just say for the sake of argument that the Colts sign Lamar Jackson. Is there any variable or any concern, for lack of a better phrase, about having a backup quarterback that theoretically would run a completely different system than what you would have for your starter?
I think it's difficult to try and achieve the same style of QB. I mean, look at Philadelphia last year. Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, fair.
It's just I understand what you're saying. You would like the systems to be pretty much similar, and you would like there not to be a total overhaul if you need that guy to start multiple games for you, but I think it's just hard to achieve.
Jake, Lamar Jackson's 1-3 in the playoffs. How good really is he come January? Not very. Is that his record in the playoffs?
Yeah, I thought it was even worse than that. I thought it was maybe 1-4. 1-3, 1-4. I mean, yeah, you can go two ways with that. Obviously, glass half full would say, look at Peyton's first 6 years in the NFL, 7 years in the NFL. I would say the bigger issue, Jake, is, okay, how does he look in January? Yes. But again, he hasn't even been available for you in January the last 2 years. That, to me, is the more alarming aspect. For those that missed it earlier, Jim Irsay, not related directly to the Lamar Jackson situation, but it's kind of the elephant in the room. He was asked about guaranteed contracts and if he is a believer in that. And the Irsay quote was staunch, adamant that he does not believe fully guaranteed contracts are good for the game of football at all.
Now, do you think he said it that way, or do you think he said staunch, adamant?
Do you think the plane was in the background?
With the dog?
We're going to do this tarmac. Drake is on the wing over there. Drake the dog. I did see there was, I guess, a representative of Daniel Snyder's team, for lack of a better term, that was filming the Irsay interview in case Jim said anything Daniel Snyder related.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Is Daniel Snyder the biggest puke in professional sports?
I retweeted it. I thought it was such a mistake that we did not get Irsay versus Snyder at halftime of the game here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Carson Wentz could have reffed it. Those two in the octagon at halftime.
Well, the problem
midfield.
Here's the problem.
Blue could be kind of thrusting in the air in the background.
The problem is if you had Carson Wentz reffing a Jim Irsay, Daniel Snyder grudge match, you ring the bell, and then both Daniel Snyder and Jim Irsay stare at each other, turn around, and equally then body slam Carson Wentz.
Could be WWE.
Right. Right.
Take out the ref.
Now, Carson would like to do the same, but then he realizes how much each of those guys have paid him.
That's right.
And he would say, thank you.
Yeah, he's cool, right?
For that. Ray goes, I think one thing you're forgetting about Lamar running so much was the offense that Greg Roman was so run heavy. A smart play caller like Shane Steichen won't beat him into the ground with so many called runs. I do think the Shane Steichen, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor trio is extremely enticing. But at the same time, again, for Lamar to be as effective and as dynamic as he is and can be, you need him to be that type of runner. You need him to be more focused on that aspect of his game. When he reverts to more of a passer, you're not getting an MVP. You're not.
I forgot, by the way, was Nick Foles on a 1 or 2 year deal?
Nick Foles' 2-year deal. I'm a little unfamiliar.
When did they officially terminate that deal?
I think I saw a Ballard quote yesterday where he only referenced Ellinger and Gardner Minshew as quarterbacks.
He sold his
team.
house, so he knows he's.
And again, I don't think Nick Foles wants to be here.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
he's like Nick Foles. I mean, this guy's my hero, right?
Pat asking interesting one. If there was no injury history with Lamar Jackson, would everybody be on board, or is the guaranteed money just too much?
60% would be the guaranteed money. Well, in the hesitation right now, I think 60% is the guaranteed aspect, 40% is the health stuff, right?
Yeah, Pat, I think it's a great question. I think you would still have some concern that eventually the injury history or the playing style, like 28-year-old, 29-year-old, 30-year-old, just wouldn't maintain. But I think you would certainly have more people on board if there was no injury history. Honestly, Baltimore would probably not let it got to this point, if that's where we're at. I think some of this is, Baltimore saying, hey, hello, Tyler Huntley's had to be our guy in the most important games of the season each of the last 2 years.
I think he's played okay, right?
Yeah,
but again,
I know that was kind of a shot.
But he
Tyler
plays
Huntley.
kind of. But he
didn't deserve that.
plays kind of the same system, right?
Yeah, I guess
that's my point.
That is a system where you do have similar ones. But again, I just don't think that's as feasible to accomplish. Jeremiah Johnson joins us in 10.
Indianapolis is under attack, at war with rampant crime, drugs, and homelessness. But Mayor Hogsett is unwilling to join the fight. In fact, under Mayor Hogsett, Indianapolis now has a murder rate higher than Chicago. Do you feel safe knowing that? But Jefferson Shreve is ready to take back Indianapolis. Jefferson Shreve will put more cops on the street and give them the support they need. We don't have to live like this. Jefferson Shreve is ready to rebuild, restore, and reimagine Indianapolis. He's a winner in business, so he knows how to lead a team to turn things around. No more empty talk. It's time for action. Because another term for Mayor Hogsett is another 4 years of the same problems, only worse. This may send Hogsett a message. Vote for Jefferson Shreve for a change. Paid for by Shreve for Mayor.
At Shane Company, we know that when it comes to jewelry, everyone has their own sense of style. With the largest selection of unique fine jewelry, it will be easy to find something perfect for you. I'm a Shane Company jewelry consultant, and I love helping people find something that speaks to them. Every piece here is special, made with love and care. At Shane Company, we're known for our stunning sapphires. We have every color of the rainbow. Choose a style with your favorite sapphire color, or choose one of our other beautiful gemstones like deep blue tanzanite or red ruby. If you gravitate to bold classics, our diamond hoop earrings and yellow gold chains really stand out. Maybe you prefer a more subtle look, like a simple gold band for stacking or a dainty necklace with a sparkling diamond. At Shane Company, we have jewelry for every personality. If you need some ideas, talk to one of us. We don't work on commission, so you'll never feel rushed. Visit us and have fun wearing jewelry that's an expression of you.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is a bacon or sausage egg croissant plus small seasoned potatoes for $3. It's the breakfast that don't miss. So if you did miss Wendy's breakfast, don't imagine fresh cracked eggs, sizzling sausage, crispy bacon, and block out those hot, buttery, flaky croissants. Croissants don't really make a sound, but if they did, for a breakfast that don't miss, Wendy's is that breakfast. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's. Select a request $3 breakfast deal to obtain discount. Not valid for a la carte or combo orders.
When you come to Diamonds Direct, we know it's always the start of a celebration, an engagement, your wedding day, honoring a lifetime of love, searching for that special birthday gift for the one you love the most, and all the celebrations in between. That's why we've created a shopping experience to match your excitement. You walk into a beautiful showroom with experts eager to help, or if you prefer, just explore on your own as long as you like. At Diamonds Direct, we've taken pressure out of the process. Our experts are cheerful and engaging. We'll help you on your terms with your price range when you're ready. We've made it easy by offering virtually unlimited options, with everything in our showcase being handpicked for its beauty and quality. You can't go wrong. You're guaranteed to get the best value because we are the value leader, and you have confidence knowing you're protected with our lifetime warranties and guarantees. Diamonds Direct's experience is designed with our goal of creating not just a happy experience, but a magical one. So you leave smiling, just like you came in. Diamonds Direct, for your best moments in life. Get store hours and directions at diamondsdirect.com.
What if I told you, in Iran, women are banned from going to soccer games?
Mom, take the ball.
For 43 years, Iranian women have fought back.
Police pushed us. Troops
This is their story.
The joy was forbidden.
What is the meaning of that?
That is how they control you.
I'm Shimol Yai. Listen to the new 30 for 30 podcast, Pink Card. Available now.
Hey, it's Dan Dockich here. You know, for years on my radio show, I asked people to help me out. I needed a treatment, aches and pains. I couldn't lose weight. Well, guess what? I found a solution. I did. Affinity Whole Health. All you've got to do is go to feelgreatindy.com and look into it for yourself. The testosterone program that I am on has been a godsend. I've missed no workouts in 6 months. No more aches and pains. And I have lost weight. FeelGreatIndy.com is the place to go. Get started just like I did.
The Pacers welcome the Milwaukee Bucks to the Fieldhouse tomorrow evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Jake, I saw this yesterday. I don't think it's the most shocking thing in the world when you consider how the last few national champions, like the makeup of their roster. It's been a lot of upperclassmen, really, and not a lot of freshmen. But did you see this is the first ever Final Four not to have a McDonald's All-American in it?
In the entire Final Four?
Yeah, I thought UConn would have had one.
That fascinates me because hasn't every national champion since Maryland in 2002 had a McDonald's All-American?
I do not know that, but that would seem to kind of check. But again, if you look at the Kansas and the Baylor and the Virginia and the Villanova, if you look at recent national champions, you haven't had these slew of freshmen in their starting lineup or even in their rotation. Obviously, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, you understand them not having McDonald's All-American. I can't imagine Miami's had a ton. But I thought UConn might have. But yeah, first time that we have not had that. I do think a big thing, I know we'll talk a lot about NIL and portal. I think a big reason, Jake, why we've seen in this year's Final Four some of these teams make it, we're still in the midst of having the extra year due to COVID.
Right.
And that will eventually run out.
Right.
So you've getting these like 3 and 4 year juniors or seniors that have been together for a decent amount of time. I do think that has played into this.
Now, one of my favorite things to do, we've done it on this show, but you know, when you watch the McDonald's All-American game or you see like rivals.com and you know those things, and you see a guy that's a top 20 player, I mean, you know, you automatically think this guy's destined for the NBA. It's a foregone conclusion. And then you look back 10 years later at the rosters and probably 50-50. There are a lot of guys that you're like, whatever happened to that guy? Give me a year of the last 25 years. I mean, let's not say in the last 5, but go back a bit.
94.
1994. You want to do McDonald's or rivals? We'll do McDonald's All-American roster.
Okay.
All right, here we go. The 1994 McDonald's All-American game. Hang on, my chipmunk is on a smoke break. Okay, here we go. This is the East roster. Curtis Staples. I'm going to name him. You tell me yes or no if the name like pops. Curtis Staples.
No, I'll speak if it pops.
Okay, Kareem Reed. Felipe Lopez.
Yeah, it pops because of the hype.
Yeah, you're right. Steve Wojo.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Chris Herron.
The story pops.
Adonal Foyle.
Yeah.
Zendon Hamilton. Norman Nolan. Lamar Greer. Corey Lewis. Daniel Fortson.
Oh, boy. That's kind of a rough year, or at least on the East roster.
West roster. Ricky Price. Neil Reed.
Man. I didn't realize he was a McDonald's All-American.
Trajan Langdon.
Sure.
Antoine Walker.
Sure.
Willie Mitchell. Jelani Gardner. Gerard Ward. Forgot about him at Michigan. Lorenzen Wright. Rafe LaFrance.
Rafe.
Ama Givens. Did I say that right? And Andre Patterson.
Yeah.
Remember for Indiana, it was like Andre Patterson, Neil Reed, Charlie Miller.
It's kind of a rough year for McDonald's All-Americans.
But it's like that every year. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you could point to, obviously, the year of
Ricky
LeBron
Price won the
Melo
dunk contest. No, it's a good barometer for sure. I just always find it fat. You know,
yeah, McDonald's All-American game this week. Again, the only Big Ten rep. Xavier Booker from Cathedral is up there. Do they do Was it the dunk contest last night? It was Bronny James in the dunk contest?
I saw Bronny James.
He's still uncommitted, correct?
Isn't he going to Kentucky? Don't we just assume that?
I was listening to Izzo last week. He talked about Draymond Green. Was it Draymond Green's wedding? I forget whose wedding he was at. That he mentioned to LeBron about recruiting Bronny. He didn't seem to have as big of the issues as I think some other people have tried to come out a little bit behind the scenes and say that it was an issue.
I mean, is Bronny? I have no idea. Like, is he? If Bronny James' name was Bronny Bowen and he was the same size, same athleticism, would he be?
Right. I feel that way a little bit about Arch Manning.
Then is he going to, Kent State? Do you really about Arch Manning?
Yeah. I mean, just like the hype around it.
Right.
Now, again, are you going to bet on genes? I would sure as hell bet on how Peyton Manning and Eli Manning are wired, and granted, it's not their son, but I would probably bet on LeBron's son. I mean, hell, even if you just take out the athleticism, just bet on it from a basketball IQ standpoint or vice versa.
By the way, the 1991 McDonald's All-American game, my senior year in high school, the West roster, poor Howard Nathan seemed to get lost in the shuffle at DePaul. Outside of that, Glenn Robinson, Jimmy King, Chris Webber, Tom Kleinschmidt, Alan Henderson, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, and Cherokee Parks. It's pretty stacked.
Ashley says Bronny's down to USC, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Okay, that sounds right. That sounds right. Are those all Nike schools, obviously?
Chris Holtman.
Zero chance he goes to a non-Nike school, right?
Speaking of McDonald's All-Americans, he just missed it at Peru. Jeremiah Johnson joins us next.
Ride with JMV.
He's Michael Rappaport.
On your best day, if you ever wake up and think you look as good as me, you should slap yourself and go back to sleep. Let's just be
damn straight.
on your best day. I don't care if you got a good hair day, maybe you had a good day at the gym. On your best day, don't ever, ever, ever think you look as fantastic as me, Michael Rappaport. Are you kidding me?
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 till 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Why does We Grow Hair Indy have the best hair transplant results? Because they have the best technology. And I'm living proof of it. Hey, this is JMV. We Grow Hair Indy has the technology that restored both my bald spot in my crown area and PRP to keep my hairline and non-transplanted hair looking good. This year, they can restore your bald spot and your hairline. Call 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. Here's Darren Andrews to explain.
Having that strong hairline again completely changes the way you see yourself. It makes a huge difference. A lot of people think the crown cannot be transplanted. It's actually an area of specialty for us with our multi-unit hair grafting.
My hair is going to grow the rest of my life, and that's exactly what I want. Call 317-522-2995 to schedule your free evaluation. That's 317-522-2995 and check out my results at WeGrowHairIndy.com, the gold standard in hair restoration.
Dr. Trudy Fleer here with the 5G Home Recovery Podcast. Let's talk about mobile users getting priority over T-Mobile home internet users, shall we? You don't know them. Why should they take your internet? I get it. We're raised to share, but always coming in second, paying to be taken advantage of? No thank you. With Xfinity, there's only one priority, and that is YOU. So come on, people, say yes to Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/TMOFax.
Now through April 23rd, new customers can get started with 200 megabit per second Xfinity Internet with Wi-Fi equipment included. It's all just $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract. Or learn more about speeds up to a gig. That's up to 36 times faster than T-Mobile home internet. Go to xfinity.com/TMOFax, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX. Indianapolis. The NTT IndyCar Series returns to action at Texas Motor Speedway. Sunday morning at 11:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Jake Query.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
First day on radio, let the rejoiner hit, and then you're good to go.
Well, typically I'm used to somebody hitting the rejoiner with a little bit more.
You got to give it a little more than 5 seconds, my friend. Let it breathe. Let it breathe.
First and 15 here.
Yeah, please.
Well, here's the thing. Issue me a technical foul, fine as it may be, right? Now, if it was my 16th technical, one would think that means that I'm suspended for a game. But apparently, if you're Luka Doncic, you get the guys to talk about it all morning long, and then you go out and you play anyway. So Jeremiah Johnson joins us now after the Pacers game last night with the Dallas Mavericks. Jeremiah, of course, on the television broadcast with Bally Sports. JJ, we talked yesterday all day that there was anticipation that Luka would be sitting out yesterday's game for that reason. Obviously, either we were ill-informed or something was rescinded. Is that right?
The technical foul was rescinded, and I'm like you. I was a little surprised at that. The pool report after the game in Charlotte, and the referee looked at the video and backed up the technical foul. So it's a little surprising to me that the NBA would turn around then and say, no, it was not a technical. But Rick Carlisle was not surprised, and he actually brought up that there's precedent for this, that Luka Doncic has had technicals rescinded the last few seasons. So, I am a little surprised. I do see the point that, people come to see these guys, and this is an important game. However, rules are rules. So I kind of have a tough time justifying the rescinded technical, but that's exactly what happened.
JJ, I know people don't necessarily enter the building to see people coach. Is the same rule in effect for head coaches? Because I, heard Rick Carlisle mention last night that he leads the league in techs for coaches.
Yeah, that's a good question. It was brought up, and I did not have the chance to go research it. It could be the case, but he's not close to 16. So
I think he said 11.
Is he at 11? Wow.
I think he said that,
Google that, and it's tough to find that. And Pat Boyle and I were actually talking about that. And I think the NBA media site has tracking, but they only update it once a week. So if he's at 11, I think he's okay. Yeah, I'm not aware. You got a stumper there. We've never really had to encounter that situation. And I'm surprised. I'll just say this. I'm surprised he leads the league in technicals because I don't picture him as someone who is constantly getting after the referees like some other coaches that will remain unnamed. But I think he does pick his moments, and actually that's what Jason Kidd said before the game. He has impactful technicals. So maybe there are times that he actually is asking for that, and it's hoping to either light a fire under his team or perhaps help get some calls a little bit later. So I don't know that we're close to having any suspensions, and I unfortunately don't know the answer with 100% certainty if 16 means the coach has to be suspended the game.
Again, he's Jeremiah Johnson, Bally Sports. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. JJ, last night in the starting lineup, the oldest person in that group was Jordan Nwora at 24. That's got to be one of the younger starting lineups the Pacers have ever had, right?
Oddly enough, I think they were a little bit younger on Saturday in Atlanta because I asked that same question when I found out who was going to be in the starting lineup, because even adding Tyrese Halliburton to the mix does not make you really that much older. And you had
Isaiah Jackson was starting, yeah.
Isaiah Jackson was starting, correct. So I think they were just a little bit younger in the Atlanta game, and that's probably a little bit of what you'll see moving forward. This is the opportunity now, and it's less than 2 weeks left in the season. We might be about finished showing standings updates because it seems pretty much unlikely that the Pacers are going to be able to get into that top 10. And so I guess that's what fans have been clamoring for, is to see some of these young players. And I think it's an important distinction to say it's not just that you want to see Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith get 30 minutes in a game. It's just more about how they play with certain players, how they can fit defensively into a scheme that you're hoping can carry over or at least make some improvements into next season. So it was a young starting lineup. It was difficult when you look at the other side and you see Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and a desperate team that is in win-now mode. And so that was a little bit of the reason probably for the struggles. The Pacers started okay in the first quarter, but after that, it was really all Mavericks.
JJ, this is a out of kind of left field question. But
from you?
Yeah, I know. It's stunning, I know.
But very fitting with baseball season. And JJ might be doing some Cardinals games again this year.
Over the course of the season, when you are sitting courtside, whether it be home or away, give me a player in the NBA that is a star or close to a star that most people would know their name, that there was a simple moment or something that you were watching in terms of their courtside demeanor, and you actually thought to yourself, that guy seems really professional and really pretty cool, and people would probably be surprised by that, but they seem to conduct themselves very maturely and professionally, and they seem to really respect the game and the people around them?
We had our second straight game against a member of the Holiday family, and we'll have another one coming up on Wednesday. And I'll go right to Drew Holiday, who is the best player, the most accomplished player of that family, and I have a lot of respect, obviously, for Justin, for the time he spent and what he meant. But Drew Holiday, if you just watch him, sometimes when I'm watching my son play, I can be guilty of just focusing on one player. But if you do that with the Bucks and you just watch what he does, there are certain things that he'll do. Maybe there's a player from the other team that's on the floor, and he'll pick them up, or something he'll do to encourage his own teammate if there's a bad play. And then what you see is the respect and admiration that opponents have for him. I mean, you're always going to see guys after games, find their former teammate or find someone they used to play with. But to a man, I think that Drew Holiday probably has as much respect around the league as anyone. And I saw something pass through Twitter yesterday, and I don't know how this came about, but I think it was a Detroit media person that had said that Dwayne Casey said that Drew Holiday sent him a thank you card for voting him into the All-Star game. And I did not know the coaches' votes were public, but I do know that Rick Carlisle says he always keeps his votes private, but he did say before a Bucks game he wanted to put it out there that he was a no-brainer, and he wanted to make sure that Drew Holiday was on his list. So there are just a couple of stories from things I've seen and then things I've seen and heard from others. I think he deserves to be high on the list, and I really think that the Bucks don't have that championship without Drew Holiday. So on the court, off the court, for so many reasons, I think he fits in that category. From your out of left field question.
Okay,
married to the Ben Davis legend, Lauren Chaney.
That's right. Okay, the other question would be the Vern Fleming Award. And by that I mean this. One of my favorite trivia questions about Vern Fleming is that he held, maybe he still does, the record for most minutes played in the NBA without ever having received a technical foul. Vern Fleming, just a quiet guy, went about his job, just did it. Give me a superstar, this might be harder to do, that you have watched, and then all of a sudden one day, Jeremiah, it dawned on you, I don't think I've ever seen that guy squawk at anything. Would there be one?
Well, I think this was discussed a few years ago, and it was probably Mike Conley, right? I don't think he's had a technical, or maybe he got one at some point in the last couple of seasons, and it was his first. And so he probably, for your out of right field question, I'm going to answer Mike Conley, and I think that says a lot about his upbringing, the attention that he received, but how important it was to just play the game and kind of keep your head down. So Mike Conley probably is the answer to that question. And he also would probably be a good person to answer the first question, because I think Mike Conley and Drew Holiday, they have some similar qualities in terms of maybe not the flashiest, borderline all-stars throughout their career, trying to impact winning, having long careers. And I never have seen Mike Conley question an official either. And I've seen him play in high school, obviously up close and personal. Saw him a little bit from afar, obviously watching those Ohio State teams, and now in the NBA. I've never seen him argue, and I have a lot of respect for that, because sometimes the guy, I understand you're going to be frustrated at times with calls, but it can get a little out of hand, and I do think it's worth, showing appreciation for someone like Mike Conley who does not.
He's Jeremiah Johnson, Bally Sports, as we mentioned, leading into the break, and near McDonald's All-American from his days at Peru. He's with us here on the Payless Liquor Sideline. Any McDonald's All-Americans from the state of Indiana, your high school graduating class, JJ?
It's a good question. I think, was Jerron Cornell borderline, or maybe an All-American? I was 1996.
Okay, stand by.
He was a good college player, I know that.
We'll be pulling up the 96 roster momentarily. Hang on.
I think Luke Recker was 97, so he would have been just past my class.
So what, Jason Gardner another year or two after you?
Here we go. The 1996 McDonald's All-American list. Let's see if there's anybody from the state of Indiana on it. You have, Kobe Bryant, Richard Hamilton, Steven Jackson. This is a good one. Jermaine O'Neal, Tim Thomas, Nate James. You got a great class.
Loaded.
Ed Cota.
That's why I couldn't.
No wonder JJ just missed it.
Jason Collier, the late Jason Collier, Mateen Cleaves, Mike Bibby, Corey Benjamin, Lauren Woods. Man, Lester Earl. Yeah, you got a good class. But no, nobody from Indiana.
Well, what they would do, and they'd give a pat on the back, honorable mention certificate if you were nominated for the McDonald's All-American game. And so they would often present that before a game. And someone from my class at Peru, Jimmy Metcalf, who actually started his college career, there's a little tie to this week, at Florida Atlantic. He was nominated, I remember, for the McDonald's All-American game, but I think that's a little bit of a longer list. And unfortunately, I was shut out of that as well.
Now, you weren't the mascot at Peru. You were the mascot at Ball State, right?
Come on now. I didn't transition to the mascot until college. I was
low post player.
What's the name of the tiger? Is it Tony the Tiger in Peru? Pete the Tiger?
The Bengal Tiger.
Just the Bengal Tiger? That's the best you guys could come up with? I mean, he doesn't even have a name.
Save their creative thanks for the circus.
Yes, right? Now, he's not a caged tiger, is he? Because you guys cage all the others for the circus deal, right?
Yeah, we never had live animals at the basketball or football games. We had a regular mascot that you're familiar with, and then we had a stuffed tiger that would sit at midcourt during warm-ups. But,
now
you don't remember any specific name. It was just the Bengal tiger.
When you say stuffed tiger, we don't mean taxidermy. We mean like from Kit and Caboodle, right?
Correct.
Okay. Massillon High School in Ohio, North Central High School, we went and played Massillon High School in football, and we walk into the stadium. I was, of course, the radio guy. I was not the player, but we walk in the stadium, and they had a live tiger in a cage.
I love that.
I mean, you feel bad for the tiger once you get older and realize what's going on. But those people ain't messing around, JJ. They ain't
Tiger has something to do every Friday night.
They're not doing the stuffed animal Peru deal, right? I mean, they're
Ohio football is a little different.
Yeah, it is.
If you want to see a real tiger, come to the circus parade in July, and we have all the real tigers that you could have.
Consider invite accepted. Thank you for that. Buddy Hield missing last night, JJ. He has got to be one of the... I guess he's got to be one of the more durable guys in the NBA. I was shocked to see that.
I was shocked as well, and I know it probably was disappointing for Buddy. And I think 7 NBA seasons, on pace for his 5th with at least 80 games played. But then if you dig in a little bit, the 2 that he did not play 80 games, no one played 80 games with the shortened COVID season and then the season after. And we have to go through and double check, but we were texting yesterday. Kristen Airy thought it was just the 4th game he has missed in his entire NBA career. He's been traded mid-season a couple of times, so you have to kind of put the two schedules together and just make sure there were no games missed for any reason other than trades. But that's remarkable. I think it's a great sign of how much durability and being available means to Buddy Hield. And I do know that, some were saying, well, he was out of the starting lineup the last couple of games, hoping that was not anything. And Rick Carlisle was pretty clear after the game in Atlanta that he went up to Buddy. They had a conversation about trying some different rotations, and he was, fully on board with coming off the bench. So hopefully we'll see Buddy. I know he will not be in favor of missing any games if he has any say in it over the final 6. So, durability and availability is something that this franchise is valuing, and that's another reason why you have to really appreciate what Buddy does.
Give me the 2 players, Jeremiah, that are going to look back on this season with Indiana and say to themselves, I just feel like maybe I missed some opportunity to take advantage. The minutes were there. It was a year where everything was assessed, and I fell short of probably what I wanted to do.
Well, it's tough because if you go into an off season, and they'll have their exit interviews when the season concludes, they're always going to be, this is what went well, this is what I need to improve on. So a missed opportunity is an opportunity to work harder in the summer and perhaps, have that opportunity taken advantage of in the next season. I think even Chris Duarte, if you asked him if this second season in the NBA went the way he had hoped, he would say no. And the injury that he had was impactful. And then he had some opportunities, but when you come back after being gone for, it was almost 2 months that he was out with that ankle injury, and then you come back and you have to get into the flow of things, and then the team was really playing well at that point. It's probably the obvious answer to your question. And for the other one, it's tough because so many guys have had flashes. There have been maybe times you'd like to see more from, Jalen Smith, I guess, would be the other person I would look at. I don't think of it as anything that he's missed out on. Maybe he expected just a little bit more when the season started, but I do think figuring out the best role for him is probably something that it's not just on him, it's on the team a little bit as well, as he started the season as a 4, and now he's really playing more as a 5. And so maybe the way he finished last season, it's not been the way that Jalen Smith would have wanted, but I think for both of those players, one in their third season, one in the second season, it's far from, the point of being making any, big generalizations about who they are and saying that they can't be anything because they've got still time in their career.
I was just asked via text if anybody has told you, Jeremiah Johnson from Bally Sports, that you sound like Tom Brady. Your voice does sound a little bit like Tom Brady. Have you ever been told that?
I had a couple people once say I look like Tom Brady.
Okay. The Tom Brady combine photo? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Was that in the Charlie Cardinal costume or no?
That's right.
Because Jake thinks he's, gone off the cliff.
Yeah, now, Tom Brady now, I don't know if you know this or not, he looks like, he's like a caricature.
Yeah, because of his workout diet and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his hair looks like straw. And he's like kind of emaciated looking. So if you want to say you look like him, that's cool. You got a dimple in your chin, I guess. That's cool.
Shock
well,
JJ
we both
is
wore
looking
number
to expand
12
on
the football field. So that's probably where the similarities have to end.
JJ, you brought up Florida Atlantic earlier. I know you were on the road with Butler during those national title runs. We had FAU's radio announcer on earlier. I guess yesterday would have been.
I heard that yesterday. That was a good interview.
Yeah, thank you. He had some great energy, great stories, and it seems like the historical nature of the two programs would be probably the biggest difference. Like Butler had made some Sweet 16s. FAU has not sniffed anything like that. Butler had a lottery pick in Gordon Hayward, at least for the first run. FAU doesn't have that. Do you see anything, similarities, differences, anything that has kind of jumped out to you about their run and what you recall from Butler?
I have to, give credit to Butler for doing it over 2 years, but the second season of Butler as an 9 seed, and that's the same seed as Florida Atlantic. I think there maybe are some similarities. Now, the difference, Florida Atlantic didn't have to then knock off a 1 seed. They had to beat a 16 seed, but they still had to play some really good games, knock off, good teams in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. But I would say there are some similarities, and the one that I'll point to, and it's probably not fair to Dusty May to make these comparisons right now, but don't you think there's a little bit of Brad Stevens and Dusty May, just the way they carry themselves, some of that background from the state of Indiana, and the Indiana ties to the coaching staff as well. So it's not a stretch to make that comparison, and that run specifically, the 2011 Butler team, I think compares a little bit to this Florida Atlantic team. And what's also similar is that team from Butler got to play VCU in the national semifinal. Even though San Diego State is a higher seed than what VCU was then, it does feel like it's set up for Florida Atlantic to perhaps be that Cinderella team to make the national championship game. And that's what was so special to me about Butler, not just once, but twice, to be on championship Monday night, consecutive seasons. It's something that I'm not sure that we'll ever see again from a team from that conference or that level of conference, and that's where Florida Atlantic is coming into this with some similarities. And when the season started, no one really expected that second Butler team. I think the first year, fine, you had those expectations. You had a really good group back. But when you lost Gordon Hayward, no one thought Butler was going to be in the Final Four of the championship game. To get the 9 seed, to get there, that's similar to this Florida Atlantic team. And I think I'll be rooting for the Owls this weekend.
FAU's probably one more deep tournament run away from getting absorbed into the ACC with the next conference alignment. I say that somewhat flippantly, somewhat seriously. Jeremiah, before we let you go, somebody on Twitter points this out. The Creighton Blue Jay apparently was running around on a unicycle, riding a unicycle at the NCAA tournament, and then wanted to know if you ever did that as Charlie Cardinal. It seems like your efforts were very lame compared to that. Wow. Yes?
Really? You're saying I was lame? I mean,
I'm not saying you're lame. I'm saying compared to riding a unicycle, like that fella I see riding around Broadway all over the place on a unicycle, right?
Yeah, well, I did not ride a unicycle as Charlie Cardinal, but I'll challenge that Blue Jay to a juggling contest or a half-court shooting contest any day of the week.
Let's
in the
go.
mascot contest.
You know,
Those are my two specialties.
Blue Jays around the bird
See ya,
feeder
Red Panda.
are very mean. Just saying.
JJ, when you mentioned Dusty May and Brad Stevens, you know you just sent everybody to a Peegs.com message board right now.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you. It's
already there.
The IU fan base, yeah. They've got a good one right now. Enjoy what you've got. I think that they need to relax just a little bit. Maybe sometime down the road, one of those two men will coach IU, but we'll see.
You know that April Trailer from Martinsville we were talking about? Jeremiah, you remember, was she Miss Basketball, April Trailer?
That sounds right. I can't say with 100% certainty.
If she'd have married Dusty May, she'd be April May.
Why am I thinking April McDivitt?
April McDivitt was Connorsville, right?
That's the name that's popping
And I
in my
believe,
head.
didn't she marry Ed Schilling?
Played for Pat Summitt, was that right?
Yes.
That is correct. She was a former Indiana Fever assistant for a season.
I saw the new Fever head coach did the rev up last night, right?
That is correct. This is an exciting time. I was talking to my son about that. We're all over the map here for this segment, but it's watching the women's Final Four. It's crazy to think that the number one draft pick goes to the Fever, and whoever they select, which it seems somewhat obvious right now, but we'll have to wait and see, will be in a Fever uniform in 2 months. It's the way the WNBA and the women's college season goes back to back, so we'll have good reason to pay close attention to the Fever very shortly.
Wait, so
a lot of Clark bars.
I need to look at my WNBA mock drafts. Why am I not seeing this as like a foregone conclusion? She's the number one pick. What am I missing here? Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina?
That's what I assumed in the fall. I hadn't been tracking any of the mock drafts over the course of the season, but I was assuming that was still the case, but I don't want to speak for anyone with the organization, so we'll have to see what happens, but that was my thought as well. What's that?
They don't have a WNBA tankathon.
She not eligible? ESPN.com right here. I'm looking at a mock draft. She's nowhere to be found.
What year is
in
she?
the first round.
We're talking about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah,
what year is she?
I don't know. I just assumed she was out of eligibility or would. Okay. The IU, Grace
Yeah,
Berger
Caitlin
going
Clark is not eligible, but Aaliyah Boston is.
Got it. So they will not get Caitlin Clark this year.
Oh, I thought that's who we were talking about. Okay.
All right, JJ. We'll see you on the telecast Wednesday. Thank you.
Any other Twitter questions? It feels like my interviews generated some talking points from your.
That's what we do on this program.
Well, we got a lot of Bally sports questions. We're going to hold off on those, though, okay?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, looking out for your best interest. Are you doing baseball this summer, I guess, along those lines?
I don't have any scheduled, but I'm open if the Cardinals or Royals need me, so we'll have to wait and see on that one.
You could juggle as Fred Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell of a seventh inning stretch there with JJ. Jeremiah Johnson, thank you.
Okay, see you.
That's JJ right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Milwaukee tomorrow night, the Thunder Friday. 6 to go for the Pacers. Again, peeking around the corner, waving that white flag.
By the way, I just did another tankathon. Second day in a row.
Wembanyama again?
Yeah. Second day in a row.
I did see this year.
Something's brewing.
Final Four, of course, in Houston this year. Indy will get back into the tournament hosting next year. Indy will host first and second round games for the men's tournament next year. They will then host a regional the following year, and the next Final Four for the men will be here in 2026.
I thought it was supposed to be, well, I guess that is about every 5 years because it was here in 20, what?
Well, then they're going to come back in 2029
and
have one. So, yeah, Phoenix and San Antonio, the next two Final Four sites. Indy, Detroit, Vegas, and then Indy again in 2029. All right, a pop quiz in a few. 317-239-1070. For now, a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You just heard us talking about it last night at the Fieldhouse. It was the Dallas Mavericks over your Indiana Pacers. Luka Doncic, as we just discussed, did play, although not sure it would have made too much of a difference because it was pretty much a blowout from the get-go. 127-104, Dallas over the Pacers. That snaps a 4-game skid for the Mavs. More importantly, for the Pacers, they are on a 3-game skid of their own. Benedict Mathurin did have 26 in the contest. Andrew Nembhard added 17 for Indiana. Also in the NBA last night, it was Milwaukee, who comes here on Wednesday, over Detroit, 126-117. The one note of that game from the Pistons standpoint, Jaden Ivey, the rookie out of Purdue, had 32, but the Pistons have lost 6 in a row.
So can Caitlin Clark not leave school early? She's been there for 3 years. Is that not a rule in the women's game?
I
could have sworn you had people leaving school early.
Yeah, that's
in the women's
interesting.
game. I mean, not like abundantly, but yeah. Speaking of the women, the Final Four, it will be Caitlin Clark and Iowa taking on South Carolina. Leah Boston for South Carolina was outstanding last night. That is the projected number 1 pick to the Fever. That will be one side of the bracket. The other side is Virginia Tech taking on, that is a 1 seed in Virginia Tech, taking on the crazy Kim Mulkey in LSU.
Now, why do you keep calling her Crazy Kim?
Have you ever seen her on the sidelines? She is
animated. How's that animated?
Animated would be politically correct. I will prefer crazy. There is some Robert Montgomery Knight to her.
Flamboyant?
Yeah, you could say that.
Intense?
Very, very intense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wonder what her and Brian Kelly's conversations are like in those LSU athletic department meetings.
Well, he just treats her like family.
Obviously, on the men's front, things will get underway at 6:09 on Saturday. You guys surprised at all by the lines for these two?
I mean, this is the one thing that I will say. What's Connecticut? What's the line for Connecticut?
The first game, San Diego State's favored by 1.5.
Okay.
And then UConn is a 5.5 point favorite over Miami.
Whenever a team, not whenever, it is not uncommon or unprecedented that a team that absolutely steamrolls its way through the tournament gets to that 4 days off or 5 days off or whatever it is and gets to the Final Four and then is totally flat in the semifinal. That, to me, makes it interesting. I mean, Connecticut has not even broken a sweat. They've been unbelievable. 5.5, though.
Of course, you're also into some dome settings now.
Yeah.
I know in Houston, things have not been the prettiest from an offensive standpoint before in Final Fours. The over-under, 131.5 for San Diego State, Florida Atlantic. Very low scoring. For Miami and UConn, 149.5.
For Caitlin Clark, by the way, it says she'll be eligible to enter the WNBA draft in 2024. There's no guarantee she'll leave, she told Dan Patrick at the end of February. She could possibly delay her professional career for a 5th season with the Hawkeyes using her COVID eligibility, saying while she wants to play for the WNBA, I have another year and possibly one more after that because of COVID. I'll probably have to make a decision on that sometime next year. I really have no clue what I'm going to do, stay for next year or leave after next year.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah.
So there you go.
She's from West Des Moines, by the way, Iowa.
Major League Baseball, they get underway starting Thursday. Tucker Barnhart going to join us on the show tomorrow. Final days of spring training wrapping up. For the Indians, Indianapolis, that is, they will start a home series. That is the Omaha Storm Chasers. Mark Dykton and family going to be in attendance on Friday night.
I have a beer bat with me.
Now, wouldn't it be weird if that game gets rained out?
Well, that'd be
You'd
ironic.
think Omaha would know ahead of time, right?
Now, weather looks dicey, right, for Friday?
That's the whole reason they're here.
The high is 60, so they're really playing close with that 60-degree guarantee.
They're chasing a storm. We might as well play them while they're here, right?
I think we might be looking at a doubleheader Saturday with the rain in the forecast. We'll see how that plays out. Saturday and Sunday, first pitch scheduled for just after 1. Again, in Louisville next week. So if you want to see the Indians here early in the season, right now is the time to see them.
Weren't they the Royals at one time? Can't they just go back to being the Royals?
Oh, I think you got to have the unique nicknames at the minor league level. I like Storm Chasers.
We got the Trash Pandas, the Storm Chasers.
I've seen the Trash Pandas in action. I saw them take on the Chattanooga Lookouts when I was driving through Chattanooga.
I think the Lookouts would be aware that the Trash Pandas were nearby.
You would think, right?
Yeah. Now, what does a Trash Panda look like?
It's a raccoon.
No affiliation with trash?
No, their logo, I think, does have a trash can. Needless to say, though, they only can play night games.
Yeah.
The Trash Pandas. They
a little spooked in the daytime.
They sleep all day long, right?
Scotty, how are we looking on the pop quiz? Pretty difficult, Scotty says. If you'd like to test your luck.
Well, feel free to call in now.
Phone lines will be filled. 317-239-1070. Jiffy Lube oil change up for grabs.
Guys, solve your ED today with an intimacy guarantee. Only at the Indianapolis Men's Clinic. If you don't perform, you don't pay. Call the Indianapolis Men's Clinic at 999-9000. 999-9000.
O'Reilly. Don't risk getting stranded with a bad battery. Let the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts test your battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card after rebate with purchase of select Superstart batteries. For power, performance, and reliability, choose Superstart batteries at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Take your first shot at hoops with FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up today by going to FanDuel.com/play and make every moment more with FanDuel.
21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit KESGamblingHelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia.
Indianapolis is under attack, at war with rampant crime, drugs, and homelessness. But Mayor Hogsett is unwilling to join the fight. In fact, under Mayor Hogsett, Indianapolis now has a murder rate higher than Chicago. Do you feel safe knowing that? But Jefferson Shreve is ready to take back Indianapolis. Jefferson Shreve will put more cops on the street and give them the support they need. We don't have to live like this. Jefferson Shreve is ready to rebuild, restore, and reimagine Indianapolis. He's a winner in business, so he knows how to lead a team to turn things around. No more empty talk. It's time for action. Because another term for Mayor Hogsett is another 4 years of the same problems, only worse. This may send Hogsett a message. Vote for Jefferson Shreve for a change. Paid for by Shreve for Mayor.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is a bacon or sausage egg croissant plus small seasoned potatoes for $3. It's the breakfast that don't miss. So if you did miss Wendy's breakfast, don't imagine. Fresh cracked eggs, sizzling sausage, crispy bacon, and block out those hot, buttery, flaky croissants. Croissants don't really make a sound, but if they did, for a breakfast that don't miss, Wendy's is that breakfast. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's. Select a request $3 breakfast deal to obtain discount. Not valid for a la carte or combo orders.
The Ride with JMV.
He is Dusty May, the head coach of Florida Atlantic. Do you pinch yourself a couple of different times knowing where you have been and where you're going right now with this team?
Like I've told several people, when you're in the eye of the storm, you don't have too much time to think about it. It's on to the next thing. We've got a lot of things to work through logistically, and we're in the process of doing all that. So we're excited, but I'm sure after the fact it'll be something we'll really cherish.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with Kevin and Query. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
See, I'm waiting, Mark.
That's very nice. It's very professional of you. Yeah. You're learning.
We have a meeting later today. This will be one of the things we go over.
Yeah.
Right?
Your professionalism.
18 months later, learning.
It's never too late to learn. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. And certainly you can speak to that.
Write that on your, what do you want to do in 5 years? Have the radio
For
discipline to not talk over rejoiners.
Now, I'm confused by this. I have a final for this last math class of death that I'm taking. I have a final on May 3rd, and commencement is on May 10th.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of feels like thinking that the Big Ten championship game affects seeding in the NCAA tournament when the selection show is like immediately following. Like if I go into this final on May 3rd.
That'd be quite the bubble burst there.
And it's a disaster. and everything's already been ordered, and they've already sent me the invitation and the RSVP and the whole deal, do they then say, "Oh, you know what? We're sorry."
You're feeling like North Carolina right now. You're pre-ranked number 1. You're like, I'm feeling good. Tournament's coming. Here we go.
Purely out of curiosity, press your luck a little bit. I'd just be curious how that could go.
A theme for the show here?
I think it's very impressive and admirable what you've done here from an educational standpoint in closing things out.
Well, I should have done it the first go-round. But let's be real.
You know what?
And I'm not done yet, Kevin. I mean, May 10th.
I know, but you are certainly looking towards that finish line. All right, pop quiz time. As Scotty said before the break, it's rather difficult. When Scotty says that means impossible. Jake, a number 1 through 8 to get us started.
We'll go with number 4.
Number 4, Mark Dykton?
Adam.
Let's go.
Adam, let's go. You are ready to go.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Adam, did you call in after you heard it was really difficult, or were you always planning to call in?
Honestly, I feel like I won because less people called in when they heard it was so difficult. So
that's a good way to look at it.
Here.
It's a really good
Adam,
way
can
to
we
look
play
at
a little get to know your listener? It's a segment we do every once in a while. I've had a lot of success with it. People seem to really enjoy it. Because you sound like a nice fella. Can we ask you a few questions about yourself?
Yeah,
okay. Adam, when you were a kid, who would you say was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, man. Probably Britney Spears.
Okay. Which leads to the next question, which would be, when you were a kid, who was the first, sports idol that you had? Now, based on that answer, I'm going to say Peyton Manning would be probably a line there, but your thoughts?
Alex Ovechkin.
Okay.
Wow, that's a curveball. You a hockey guy, Adam?
Yeah, I've played all my life.
Yeah, named Alex Ovechkin. You said, "Are you a hockey guy?" I would surely hope so.
Well, maybe as a Russian descent, Mark. You never know.
Now, Adam, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a Indiana suburb of Chicago, up in northwest Indiana.
And so when you got to college, were you one of those guys like I knew at IU that was like, "Yeah, I'm from Chicago," and you're like, "Oh, really? What part? Like, how far from Michigan Avenue? Crown Point?" Like, yeah, man, that ain't Chicago. Were you that guy?
Well, I would usually just say Northwest Indiana because I wouldn't say I'm from. It's just too far.
Now, the other question is, were you not a Blackhawks fan?
No, I was. Around that time, it was tough sledding. My first Blackhawks player that I really liked was Eric Daze.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, Adam, thank you for calling and thank you for listening. And good luck on what has been billed as one of the more difficult pop quizzes in the history of the show.
Would you like for me, that would be Jake, to lead you off, Adam, or would you like for Kevin to give you question number 1?
I'd say Jake, just because you wanted to get to know me a little bit. Let's get it going.
All right, I like that.
Kevin,
here we go,
Adam.
Care.
No, I don't care. No.
4 teams have been eliminated from the NBA playoffs for this season. Which of these following teams is still mathematically alive for the postseason? Would it be the Portland Trail Blazers, the Charlotte Hornets, the San Antonio Spurs, or the Detroit Pistons?
Say the Trail Blazers.
Start there, Adam. Number 2, South Carolina advanced to the Final Four of the NCAA women's basketball tournament with their win over Maryland last night. They're undefeated, 36-0 on the season. They are the 14th team to reach the women's Final Four undefeated. Of the previous 13, how many went on to win the championship? 8, 9, 10, or 11?
We'll go with 10.
And I would say that the answer to this...
The Beatles love this number.
...is very close to one of your favorites.
8.
Close.
All right.
Close.
Now, if you have listened to the pop quiz last week, we mentioned that Kansas State was one of 2 schools in the Power 5 conferences that has never won an NCAA championship in any team sport. They, of course, were eliminated in the Elite 8 by Florida Atlantic. The other school has advanced to the women's basketball Final Four and thus has a chance. Who would it be? It's kind of a hokey question, I realize, but which of the women's Final Four teams would you say?
In my opinion, that sucked.
South Carolina?
Michael Vick went there.
Oh. Can you give me the 4 teams?
I love Adam Adam's making demands. This needs to be multiple choice. Adam, is it
I can't.
South Carolina, Iowa, LSU, or Virginia Tech?
Oh, Virginia Tech.
Number 4. How many choices do you want for this one coming up here, Adam? Happy 79th birthday to Rick Barry. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer won an ABA championship with the Oakland Oaks and an NBA title with the Golden State Warriors. Who is the only player to win an NCAA basketball championship, an ABA championship, and an NBA championship?
The ABA he did as a Pacer, by the way.
As a player. A. Barry, B. Ron Bonham, C. Larry Siegfried, or D. Tom Thacker?
It's not the guy that plays with Tigers. It's not Rick Barry.
Thacker?
Nice. All right, question number 5. On this day in 1977, this Midwestern university in one of my favorite cities was coached by Al McGuire and won the national championship in men's college basketball. Was it Michigan State, Marquette, DePaul, or Louisville?
Louisville.
All right, Adam. Not bad. I mean, considering, I guess, a little bit of hand-holding, but still, not a bad effort at all. Which of the following 4 teams still alive in the NBA playoffs? It is indeed the Portland Trail Blazers.
Correct.
Question number 2.
God, I thought that was a good hint. Close to Ovechkin, very close to Ovechkin. I don't know.
The Beatles, by the way, their song Revolution number 9. He went with 8. The answer was 9.
9 times.
9 times.
You blew it! Thank you, Adam.
Vontek was correct. Tom Thacker was correct. And Al McGuire coached Marquette.
You're a complete loser.
You know, it's interesting to me to think, and for people that are of my age range, that Bob Knight is to today's 25-year-old, 30-year-old kid what Al McGuire was to me. Like, people now that are graduated from college are like, Bob Knight, yeah, like, I knew him from TV, but, like, didn't he used to coach? And that's what Al McGuire was to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider, Jake, Bob Knight's last game at Indiana was what, the year 2000?
Isn't that crazy?
Spring of 2000, I was 11.
Yeah, that is crazy.
You know, you think of, like, impactful childhood memories. I mean, sure, I remember watching games with him on the sideline, but I don't have a ton of, like, vivid.
I tweeted yesterday, at Jake Query is my Twitter, JakeQuery. I found a video of Stacey Turan's shot from 1980 where he defeated Marion in the semifinals of the IHSA state finals with a 3/4 court shot. And right after the game, as the crowd's going crazy, Jerry Baker throws it down to Hilliard Gates, and he's like, well, I have an interesting spectator here. The current Indiana Hoosiers basketball coach, Bobby Knight. And Knight walks over and does an interview. And, I mean, he's typical Bobby Knight, the silver hair and everything else. And I'm watching it going, wait a minute, he's 39 years old there. I'm like, that guy's 11 years younger than I am right now in that video. And it's all relative, but I look at it and I go, he looks like he's 55.
Mm-hmm.
But different era, man.
Yeah, quite the scene there, quite the scene Saturday night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I did want to mention, Jake, and this is, I think, relevant to McDonald's All-American stuff we talked about, Indiana High School stuff we talked about, thoughts with Eric Montross and his family, announced by the family over the weekend, diagnosed with cancer. He has been a huge advocate and raiser of money in the Carolina area, Chapel Hill area, especially for their children's cancer center down there. So Eric Montross, who I believe still does color commentary.
He does.
For North Carolina games. Thoughts with him and his family.
I had mentioned yesterday, Kevin, there were 2 times in my life that I realized how much I didn't like Eric Montross. The first was when he was a year ahead of me at Lawrence North, and they eliminated North Central in the state, in the sectionals, because he was a dominant McDonald's All-American level, Parade All-American level player. So naturally in high school, you don't like the guy that's winning. And then the second was when I found out that because I didn't like him so much as a player, including at North Carolina, when I found out what a good guy he was. Because then it was like, oh, man, I kind of wanted to not like him because he was the rival player. But I have never heard anybody that knows him say a bad thing about him, ever. And including apparently just a tremendous teammate and literally like the nicest, most decent and kind human being.
And again, it's done a ton from a philanthropic standpoint for cancer research, ironically enough, in the Carolina area. All right, we'll round it out one final time here. Kevin Aquaria on a really nice Tuesday here in Indy.
Why does We Grow Hair Indy have the best hair transplant results? Because they have the best technology. And I'm living proof of it. Hey, this is JMV. We Grow Hair Indy has the technology that restored both my bald spot in my crown area and PRP to keep my hairline and non-transplanted hair looking good. This year, they can restore your bald spot and your hairline. Call 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. Here's Darren Andrews to explain.
Having that strong hairline again completely changes the way you see yourself. It makes a huge difference. A lot of people think the crown cannot be transplanted. It's actually an area of specialty for us with our multi-unit hair grafting.
My hair is going to grow the rest of my life, and that's exactly what I want. Call 317-522-2995 to schedule your free evaluation. That's 317-522-2995 and check out my results at WeGrowHairIndy.com, the gold standard in hair restoration.
One day, former Pro Football offensive tackle Mitch Schwartz just happened to walk into Diamonds Direct with his wife, Brooke.
The store blew us away. We both got back to the car after. We were like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that this awesome store was right in the middle of Overland Park. And it was a huge selection.
Today, Mitch and Brooke are frequent shoppers at Diamonds Direct.
Oh, Brooke is very happy about her jewelry. Every few months, we make our way to Diamonds Direct, and there's another 3 or 4 pieces that catch her eyes.
What they love is there's never any sales pressure at Diamonds Direct. In fact, they often end up spending less than they expected.
We want to make sure everything's tasteful, everything's done right, and that's another advantage of Diamonds Direct is they're not just going to sell you the largest thing, the most expensive thing that you'll buy. They'll find what fits your finger the best.
Are you shopping for that engagement ring or that romantic piece of jewelry for the one you love? Wander into Diamonds Direct, like Mitch did, and you'll be blown away as well.
Diamonds Direct is great, and it's just a great place to shop.
Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion. Get directions, store hours, and more at diamondsdirect.com.
At Progressive, we love sports and saving you money, so we bundled them together.
2 seconds left on the clock, third field goal range, and it looks like he's going to go with a 5-iron. No, wait. The quarterback is skating back on the ice. He's talking with his caddy. They're pulling the goalie. He skates off the fairway as the kicker lines up his putt. It's a breakaway. They bundled their home and auto insurance with Progressive. Touchdown savings, birdie goal.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Why have over 2 million people trusted their bath remodels to Bathfitter? When a normal day is anything but normal, we fit your schedule with our unique tub-over-tub process installed in just a day with no demolition. When high quality is the only quality that matters, we fit your standards. We've been remodeling baths for over 35 years, and every bath we install comes with a lifetime warranty. Get the bath you want in a day with quality that lasts a lifetime. Bathfitter, it just fits. Visit bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
Wait, aren't these all charitable donations?
At Magda's Tax Prep, every person
Better
counts.
not have to file for an extension.
She needs new auditors to maximize returns on her family time.
On itemized deductions. Hey, can someone help with these 1099s?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Dream homes come in all shapes and sizes. And at TCU, we believe borrowing options should too. There's no one-size-fits-all mortgage. Let our knowledgeable team pair you with your perfect loan solution while you pick the perfect pairing of paint colors for your new place. Plus, save up to $1,000 on closing costs, which means more money for the fun stuff. Together, let's make it yours. Welcome home with TCU. NMLS number 686706, federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity. All loans subject to credit approval and membership requirements. All for details at tcunet.com/welcome home.
It's a patio show every day at Indy Decorative Concrete. Hi, Audrey Artisan here with Indy Decorative Concrete. We may not have flowers, admission fees, or parking fees, but what we do have is the city's best showroom for stamped concrete. Come in and see actual examples of endless patterns, textures, and colors to create the patio of your dreams. Stop in and see for yourself. We're on the city's southeast side off of Brookville Road and 465. Indy Decorative Concrete, the patio experts, changing the way Indy thinks about concrete.
Astros host the White Sox in the Major League Baseball season opener, Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
A lot of NFL owners meeting shattered today on the show with Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard, and I almost said Frank Reich, and Shane Steichen, all meeting the media yesterday out in Arizona. I think big on the docket today will be a little bit more league-wide stuff. You think they should abolish that rugby-style QB sneak that the Eagles made so effective last year?
The problem is teams come up with new wrinkles or new looks at things, and then, like, if it's overly effective, it's like, we can't do that anymore, and then you start to water it down a little bit.
Yeah, this one seems a little bit more like player safety related. I don't know. I'd like to see it still around. I think it's kind of a fun thing. You saw some wrinkles off of it. The Eagles were 37 of 41 when they used that last year. So that will be some of the news items. We'll see if they pass the Thursday night flex situations. That sounds awful to me. I think that's horrible for the fan experience. So
awful.
Much of what a season is about for a fan, you're oftentimes planning weekends, weeks around a game, changing a game from Sunday to Thursday. Sunday to Monday is one thing. Sunday to Thursday, it's a whole different animal. I would hate to see that become
how soon in advance would they have to?
Yeah, I don't think there's maybe a lot of traction for it to happen this year, but Jake, with all this stuff, it just seems like once there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable. And if you're Amazon, wouldn't you want it?
I wonder, I haven't looked.
Oh, yeah, Colts and Broncos in week 5.
Like,
Thank you. Here we go.
Did Amazon Prime, maybe a year's too early to know, did they get return on investment?
I mean, I think NFL ratings are, speak for itself.
No, I get that.
But I think they were disappointed in, again, I mean,
some of the games were terrible.
Remember that? They had like a 3-week stretch there of like, there hasn't been a touchdown on Thursday Night Football in,
But I mean,
X amount of minutes.
Did they get the number of, for Amazon Prime, they're less worried about ratings and more worried about simply how many people are.
Yeah, do people buy paper towels at halftime?
Well, or how many people are, or subscribing to the app in order to be able to watch it. Did they get the number of conversions that they were hoping for?
Yeah, I do not know that. But yeah, that is something that's being talked about, again, out there at the league meetings. Roger Goodell, contract extension, NFC coaches. So Matt Eberflus and company, they'll meet the media a little bit later today. They do AFC one day, NFC the next. What is the big NFC storyline, Mark?
I don't know.
I guess
who's going to quarterback these teams?
A little bit of Rodgers related there. I guess if you're the Falcons, how serious are you?
Going to nominate to get beat by Mahomes or Allen in the Super Bowl?
And the Lamar Jackson? Can anyone compete with Philly? But again, Philly's lost a whole lot from last year. Thank you to Nate Atkins. Thank you to Jeremiah Johnson. Tomorrow on the show, hoping to have Stephen Holder back from the owners' meetings, and then Nigel Pack of Miami, and of course the Lawrence Central product, and Tucker Barnhart with opening day just 2 days away.